All right, welcome to the Backstage Pass. It's week 17, Twitch Box Sports Talk. Exciting week here ahead of us. We had some great games this last week. A lot of things moving around here for playoff pictures. We always like to start off with what makes us Twitch. Box, anything?
Yeah, I mean, there was a number of things you could say that made you twitch, and obviously you could talk about the Falcons, but I feel like I've given the Falcons enough airtime here. I'm officially out on the Falcons. I will never feel bad for you again, no matter how bad you are. I hope you go 0-16 the next 4 years. I have legitimately no remorse for you at all. But what really made me twitch is Jim Harbaugh and the Baltimore Ravens. Not that, I mean, they got a huge win over the Green Bay Packers, 41-24. So that was good for them. But what made me twitch is Derrick Henry. We know Lamar's been hurt, and they've been kind of slinging it, like trying to throw the ball around more. Derrick had 36 carries for 216 yards, 4 touchdowns. And I get, you want to save that for towards down the stretch when you're going to hopefully make the playoffs and whatnot. But why haven't we been doing that all year? You want to be sitting at 8-8 right now if you stick to what you're good at, and that's running the ball, triple option football, get Patrick Carr there in front of Derrick Henry, and you got 420 pounds a person running at you at least, running downhill. You're not counting I know Lamar's been banged up, and that takes away an element of it, but just watching that game and watching what looked like prime Derrick Henry again, just running all over the field. He's part of the reason I lost my fantasy championship is Derrick Henry had 216 yards and 4 touchdowns. Just an outrageous game for Derrick. And this is nothing against the Ravens players. I think Harbaugh's play calling, especially I know he's was trying to protect Lamar, but this team, the team that we saw on Saturday night, is better than 8-8. 100%. I know they had defensive issues and they've had ups and downs all year, but that team is better than 8-8. And the fact that they're sitting at 8-8, granted, you lose to Josh Allen week 1 the way you do, that happens in the NFL. Crazy games happen, but the way they dominated the Packers, who are a playoff team, they're going to be the 7th seed more than likely, is outrageous to me. So.
Should have been the game plan every week. Run it till they can't stop it anymore.
Yeah,
and then change it.
You have this crazy guy called Zay Flowers that's perfect for the RPO game. They run off of it. It's just maybe they're getting hot at the right time and gearing up to make the playoffs here, but that made me twitch for sure. And I know something else that made me twitch was Tony Romo. I know Twitch is going to hit it here in a second, but Tony Romo just all over Myles Garrett and the Browns nuts, even though they have 3 wins now. 4 wins now. They got their 4th win. Yeah. So, I get it. It's exciting, trying to watch this guy break the sack record, which is a big deal in the NFL. But, I'm trying to. I don't really care about unbiased football. I enjoy listening to the Chiefs guy always call the games, and it's always enjoying to hear him, even though he's definitely biased because he's a Chiefs guy.
Oh, 100%.
But at the end of the day, Tony Romo, they're the Browns. They suck. You're a Cowboys quarterback. You suck as well. So maybe just tone it down a couple steps, buddy. But Twitch, we definitely know what made you twitch. But what made you twitch this week, Twitch?
Well, Greg's going to touch on the one thing that I was going to make me twitch. But going back to your point about Tony Romo, my favorite stat was them saying, which is true over the last 6 or 7 years, that we've only won once in Cleveland. But that was probably one of the things that made me twitch. A sidebar. I just want to throw that out there. I said it in our group message, but them talking about how the Browns own Pittsburgh historically, I'm just up until, let me point out, since the Browns came back in 1999, that the second most wins in that stadium are Ben Roethlisberger, an opposing quarterback, because they won so freaking often there. So they're going to say, that's the most Brown. Yeah. That goes up there with, and they have a bunch of them. That's a Brown statistic
and
for you.
So. And that one win was Big Ben's last year playing in Cleveland, as he was the last quarterback to beat them there.
Yeah.
So it's still the Big Ben era.
But the thing that made me twitch, there was a couple of things I could have put here, but I'm gonna go with my own team, just because I've been saying all year about how I thought that we should have got rid of Pickens. If we would have had to pay 2 guys, at least we would have had something. Because that's just it. We're 9-7, and I don't know what the strength of our team is. But you get rid of George Pickens. He's a top 5 receiver all year, which I knew he could have the potential to be because he did it with lesser quarterbacks. So you get rid of Pickens because he's a problem. Then DK Metcalf, who has a history himself. And I like DK overall as a person. I think he's overrated, but I think he's a freak athlete, but I think he's overrated. What do you think was going to happen when you go punch an NFL fan in today's world? So now here we are the last 2 weeks of the season, which I almost picked Cleveland because this was a Mike Tomlin fucking shit special. Just a shit sandwich as far as the games that they should win. It played out exactly what I was afraid of, which was we don't have a number 2 receiver. You're playing a Cleveland defense. You got the division on the line, and it said, and you get rid of George Pickens because of problems. And now here are the last 2 games of the year. Yeah, if DK plays that game, the number of drop balls, there's at least 3 or 4 in the red zone. He probably makes a play. Don't even get me started on. We dropped a pick 6 as well. I said, but Pittsburgh had every opportunity to win that game, and we get rid of a better player, and because of character issues, and then here we are the last 2 weeks of the year. But you'll find out about your Ravens this week, just because they'll probably make the playoffs and they'll beat us, and yeah, we'll see.
So yeah, I talked to Tristan last night, and he said, from watching that game, he felt like Pittsburgh played more to not give Myles Garrett the sack record than they did to win the game. And he said the play calling and just how they performed offensively didn't seem like they were playing to win that either. And again, missing elements there with Metcalf. Stupid penalty. Like you said, you punch a fan, and that's what you get is the 2-game suspension, and that costs you dearly. I don't know if there's fines that came with that. At the end of the day, that's what it's going to ultimately end up costing. You'll have to go back and think about what you want on the field as an organization. So, well, we kind of talked a little bit about what made us all twitch before, and Chris and I were both talking about this one. Twitch and I were talking about how the Bills and the Eagles game, it comes down to the Bills get down there, they score a touchdown. They ultimately decide to try to go for a 2-point conversion when they're down 13-12. They've shut down the Eagles statistically the whole entire second half. At the time, actually, looking at the play, it was a well-designed play, and Josh Allen missed something that I think that you get that play opportunity 95 times out of 100, he's probably making that throw.
Yeah.
But then you look at, what were you giving up? You had all the momentum, kick the extra point, and then play to win. So I usually like the aggressive play calling, and I think if they get it, everybody goes, yeah, that was a great call. But if you're Buffalo, you got to look at, statistically, what do you need to do to get the W in the win column, and it cost them this one. So I don't care. But as I watched that game, I was like, that'd make me twitch.
You give up less than 20 yards total offense to the Eagles. You kick the extra point. You go to overtime. The division was still in play for Buffalo, although an outside shot. And then, you both teams get the chance at the ball regardless anymore. So I didn't like that call. Like I said, I'm with you. Most of the time I agree or like the aggressive play calling, but just one of those things where I think they outsmart themselves sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. It was. I can see both sides of it, but also, I don't know why especially you're at home. It's been a rain game all game, and like Twitch said, they shut them out in the second half. Like record numbers, lows in the second half. So crazy to watch. We're gonna roll into our players of the week, starting up offensively. Honorable mention, I already shouted out Derrick Henry, so he's not going to be my offensive player of the week. But my offensive player of the week was Drake May, 256 yards, 5 passing touchdowns, and he's the first NFL quarterback to throw 5 passing touchdowns to 5 different receivers. So, granted, it's against the Jets, but that's still a good stat, and that just solidified Drake May's MVP candidacy, especially with Stafford slipping up and throwing 3 interceptions on Monday Night Football. So I think it's Drake May's award to lose, and I'm guessing they're gonna sit this week because they have a chance for the 1 seed, but it's not gonna happen because Broncos are gonna win. So I'm guessing they sit this week. So that's my offensive player of the week. There is Drake May, who deserves all the flowers in the world.
Yeah. So my honorable mention both come from a red-hot Niners team. I said with McCaffrey having 181 total yards between 141 and almost 40 yards receiving. So, 181 total yards and a touchdown for Christian McCaffrey. On top of, first time in his career, they had over 100 yards by halftime in a high-scoring shootout. And then Brock Purdy, I'm not going to do it because he was my player of the week last week, but responsible for 3 passing touchdowns and 2 more rushing touchdowns. So, if he would have been playing this, he missed a good chunk, whatever it was, 6 games, 7 from injury, I said, but the Brock Purdy we've seen over the last month and a half, if he would have been healthy all year and playing like that, he'd be an MVP candidate. It's just
for sure
playing outside of his mind. But I'm going to pretty boring, and you kind of touched on it already because he hasn't been mine. I don't think he's been mine. If he has been, maybe early in the year. But I did go Derrick Henry for the 216 rushing yards and the 4 touchdowns, and it feels like you said, this is what they should have been doing all year, and that's what happens when you give the ball to Derrick Henry and you commit to the run game.
You hand the ball to him 32 times.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter how long the game is,
Pittsburgh's
they're
about
gonna
to get
tired.
Pittsburgh's going to get a heavy dose of it, and then if they win that game and they make the playoffs, I said Baltimore kind of figured it out over the last month. And even without Micah Parsons, yes, that's definitely hurt the Packers, but the Packers losing 2 straight, and Baltimore's came in and punched them in the mouth. It handed the Packers their 3rd straight loss. But yeah, I did go Derrick Henry there for 4 touchdowns and over 200 yards rushing.
I could have went with Derrick Henry or Christian McCaffrey because they were both on my fantasy football team this week when I won our fantasy football league. But I tell you what, going outside that, I'd go back to San Francisco and say I thought Brock Purdy showed great poise, coming out and throwing a pick right off the bat. And then, sometimes I think that'll rattle a guy in those situations. And it didn't catch him off guard at all. He came out and played lights out. That was an exciting game to watch. It was back and forth, touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. And statistically, I don't have that there in front of me, but I would say that's a team that's looking like they are ready for the playoffs. And I wouldn't be afraid to have Brock Purdy as my QB1 any day if he's playing like this. So
Yeah.
Look out.
Lights out. Honorable mention again, Bijan Robinson, 195 yards, 1 touchdown on the ground, plus another 34 through the air and another touchdown last night in the win. So Bijan deserves it for sure. He was the reason the Falcons won that game. Kind of taking a cop-out on my defense player of the week, but I'm just going to take the Texans defense in general. I mean, just playing lights out. Playing lights out defense. I mean, they had 5 sacks on Justin Herbert, had another 8 QB hits on top of the 5 sacks. Granted, Justin Herbert's line's kind of in shambles right now. But with that being said, I think this is the most complete defense we've seen between pass rush and secondary and linebacker play, just playing great football across the board. We've seen some dominant defenses like this, like the Lions last year, just shutting people down. And we've seen the Patriots, back in the day, the same concept. But the Texans are the defense to beat this year. And, I mean, obviously they started 0-3, so they've been kind of flying under the radar, and I think that's exactly where the coach wants them. So, defensive player of the week. And Twitch, I know I just stole your defensive team of the week, I guess.
Well, I'll go mine up there. Going back to the Falcons, actually, the Xavier Watts, that 3rd-round pick from the 2025 NFL draft out of Notre Dame, he was the guy that came out and got that pick 6 for the touchdown and then came back out and had another one that he actually ran back in and stepped out on like the 43, which, if you'd had 2 pick 6s in a game, that would have been just phenomenal.
Outrageous.
But, Falcons defense came out there and just played lights out. So, be curious to see what's on the horizon for him. Good things for a team that box ups goes 0-16, 0-17 for the next 4 years. But there we
would
go.
Be nice.
Yeah, I won't spend much time because you kind of stole mine. But I was actually going to say, even though he only ended up with 1 sack out of the 5 for the Texans, I said I was going to say Will Anderson specifically. Like between him and Daniel Hunter, both studs for the Texans. I said, but it just seemed like even though he only had 1 sack, the number of times it seemed like every time that there was a big play, the interception, the fumble, batted balls, like whatever. Will Anderson was everywhere on the field. There was a couple. The Texans defense, like you said, finished with 5 sacks, and there was at least 2 other sacks and another turnover that was negated because of a penalty. Otherwise, they would have had 7 or 8 sacks, 3, 4 turnovers. I mean, Texans defense is like the best defense. I've been saying we've been talking about it for the last couple of months, all year. So, but I'm comfortable enough to say even over the Broncos, the Rams, the Seahawks, the most consistent defense. Every game they show up consistently, always having 5 or 6 sacks, always a couple turnovers. And the Chargers, same thing as like a couple other teams that they played over this stretch, is like kind of a late garbage time. Not I want to say garbage time, but late touchdowns. Otherwise, the score wasn't even as close as what it looked like. Even the Bills, Josh Allen, and that's just it. Not only was it 20-10 for a good chunk, but even when it came down to the last drive, the other team having the ball, just putting a like a closer, just shutting the game down. Defense making a sack, making a big play every single week. Always allowing the team like under 20 points. Like the one thing that scares me, obviously, about the Texans is going to be. I like C.J. Stroud, but like what I've seen in the last 2 weeks, so the Chargers I think probably have an underrated defense after watching the last month. I think the Chargers have a lot better defense than what I give them credit for. That being said, like I worry about some of the decision making on C.J. Stroud, but if he doesn't turn the ball over and they can get somebody else consistently to go with Nico Collins and Marks in that run game, like you saw what they got out to an early lead. They scored two touchdowns quick. So that defense will keep you in every game. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Quick, rolling in a couple topics we're gonna hit here. That's one I didn't have on the docket, but I heard about it today, and I wanted to get your guys' takes on it. So, Jared Goff was responsible for 5 turnovers against the Vikings in the game, and so, and Jared Goff's kind of having a slump here recently because they figured out the weakness of Jared Goff is if you put pressure in his face, he'll turn the ball over and have bad plays, and granted, they're not all his fault, like, tip passes and whatnot, but what do you think Jared Goff is he's not the long-term solution, he's a little bit older as a quarterback-wise, but do you think Jared Goff returns next year, maybe the year after for the Detroit Lions, or do you think Dan Campbell gets aggressive and finds a different style playmaker or another playmaker there just because...
They spent the money on him, though.
Yeah, I know they paid for him and stuff, but it's interesting to see, like, this guy that kind of teams that kind of figured him out. Because, the Minnesota Vikings who have been, they're also 8-8. They've been kind of sneaky winning games here recently. But a team that, has been kind of written off, just 5 turnovers against your QB1.
I don't think that they get rid of him, but I do think Dan Campbell is an aggressive person just by nature. And so, that's why they went after him to begin with. I remember watching that last season of quarterback, and when Goff was upset about getting traded, and Dan came in and said, we're building this team around you, the city's going to be behind you, and there was a lot of, recognition for what they thought he was going to bring to the team. But we've seen that with a lot of other teams going all in on quarterbacks that haven't worked out either. And so the NFL is definitely a league of impatience. And so I think that financially teams need to be a little bit more well-rounded with where they're spending their money, maybe shorter-term contracts and bringing some guys in so you don't get upside down in the salary cap. So I think that they've got enough money in him that they're gonna look and see what they need to do to maybe give him some additional help. But obviously a lot of those losses come from his mistakes, and you don't go throw a guy under the bus for that, but statistically you have to have somebody that's not going to turn the ball over 5 times in critical games, especially when you get down the stretch and your season's on the line.
Yeah.
And they're been out for a couple weeks now, but I had them as being somebody that was going to make the playoffs 4 weeks ago, and I was wrong.
Yeah, I think we all had him as somebody to make the playoffs. For sure. A couple injury updates here. Josh Allen has got a foot injury. He had a X-ray after the game that hasn't been leaked out there yet.
Yeah, that's because he ran around backwards for 50 yards trying to avoid that sack, and then
yeah, he's been dealing with the foot thing all year. It's kind of kept under wraps, like what it is. So I'm guessing he'll be fine, but something to look at. He might not be as mobile for this playoffs run. George Kittle with the ankle sprain and Trent Williams with an ankle calf injury. Both of them could have played, but they were holding it back because they already made the playoffs, so don't want to hurt your stud guys. Same thing with Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams could have played last night on Monday Night Football, but they held him back because they said, we already made the playoffs. There's no point in injuring our stud in the red zone. Right. Josh Jacobs is going to be out this week as well with the knee injury. He's been nursing all year, so they're going to rest him this week. And then Lamar Jackson, still with the back injury, questionable to play. He'll more than likely play in this game just because it's a huge game. It's playoff implications and all that stuff. And then Jordan Love in the same boat there with concussion. He could have played last week more than likely, but they sat him. Couple updates here. Myles Garrett still chasing the sack record. Didn't get a sack against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I 100% agree that the Steelers look like they were playing to not get sacked. And it looked like just don't let him break the record against us. They didn't care what the result of the game was, which is a wild thing. Like, I understand you don't want your guy's record when he's not playing to be broken.
And I don't know statistically what Rodgers put up last week. I mean,
Less
it
than
wasn't
200 yards.
Yeah, it's hasn't been phenomenal. So, but then again, you're missing some key helpers out there. Smacky.
Yeah.
The Diggs brothers both got in some trouble today. So not necessarily both got in trouble, but Trevon Diggs has been released by the Cowboys. He fell down the stairs and got a concussion week 5 and just never played again. So it'll be interesting to see if he ends up signing with another team for the playoff run here, or if he's done for the year and goes somewhere next year. And then Stephon Diggs facing some felony charges. Not necessarily going to put him out there because it's been unconfirmed if those are true or not. But Stephon Diggs questionable to play this week for sure, and possibly the rest of the season. Some serious allegations and stuff being put out there. So interesting to see where that will go. Which Stephon's really come on here late. 3 games in a row with at least 100 yards receiving for the Patriots. So
Yeah, I saw that notification this afternoon.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that one goes for sure. But rolling into our I'll get the Pro Bowl roster in a second, but we're going to start our Coach of the Year talk. So, we're at the point of the year, everybody's talking about who should be the Coach of the Year, who do you think should be Coach of the Year. And obviously this year there's plenty of good candidates, Mike Vrabel, Cohen, Shanahan out there, obviously Peyton in Denver. You could even go with Sean McVay with the Rams after the rocky season they had last year. But I want to get your guys' take on your Coach of the Year there. So, Twitch, who do you have as your Coach of the Year? Who do you think deserves to be Coach of the Year to this point?
I think some of the honorable mentions we've touched on in the past is that, but I feel like, Mike Vrabel, just like the Broncos, winning 12 of their last 13 games, deserves some recognition. Complete turnaround for the Patriots. Seattle with the 13-3 with them. I think that their head coach deserves some praise. But a guy that's been flying under the radar is just I would have to say, it doesn't even matter if they win or lose for the 1 seed on Saturday or not, in my opinion. I feel like it's already wrapped up. I feel like it should go to Kyle Shanahan. Top 3 or 5 coach for the last 6 or 7 years, right up there with the Sean McVays, if not, he's had the head-to-head over Sean McVay. And it seems like San Francisco, like I said, they're getting hot at the right time. They're always contenders this time of year, except for last year, saved a lot of injuries. But for all these teams making an excuse of injuries, for the second straight year, no one was bit more by the injury bug than the Niners. I mean, you lose Brock Purdy for almost half the year, 6 or 7 games. You lose George Kittle, which I love the guy, but next to Joe Burrow is about one of the most brittle tight ends. I mean, he's hardly ever available. So George Kittle misses almost half a season. You lose Deebo Samuel, a top wide receiver 1 to free agency. You lose Brandon Ayuk, who was a solid 1 in most teams, was asking for number 1 type money. Lose Brandon Ayuk, you lose Nick Bosa, and Fred Warner, which Warner and Bosa within the top 5 of their position in the entire NFL. You have all those guys missing, and here we are talking under the radar all year. We've been talking. I'm guilty of this myself. I had the Niners being the surprise team winning their division, but I gave up on that after week 5 or 6, and I just thought we've been talking, rightfully so. The focus has been on, that Seahawks-Rams game. Whoever wins that's probably going to be the 1 seed and go to the Super Bowl. Not so fast. Now the Niners are playing as hot as anybody right now, and they play for a chance at the 1 seed against the Seahawks in San Francisco. We'll get to our picks later, but I mean, if you're San Francisco, you have to like that opportunity, especially with all the injuries that they've had and the way they're playing right now. At 12-4, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter if they win; they go 12-5. The coaching job that Shanahan and the kudos. This is where it goes. Both guys deserve credit, but Brock Purdy has obviously separated himself from Mac Jones and shown us he's back to that quarterback he was the last 2 years. Wasn't really healthy last year, but okay, which Brock Purdy are we going to see? Because then he got hurt early in the year. Yeah. This is what we got. So I feel like that monkey's off their back. I feel like they're going in confident, and I feel like Kyle Shanahan deserves, whether they win on Saturday or not, but especially if they win and get the 1 seed, because these awards go out before the Super Bowl. So it's supposed to be about the regular season, not as much influenced by the postseason. And I'd have to say, Vrabel and Peyton may not have more wins for their team if the Niners lose, but as far as the coaching job, Niners are red hot. I don't see a lot of weaknesses, and we're talking 6-star Pro Bowl caliber players, literally Pro Bowl caliber players missing this year, and they didn't skip a beat. And flying under the radar, everyone's talking about the Seahawks and the Rams, and
Here we are.
Here we are. They might have home field advantage.
And the Super Bowl is in their home stadium, so
Oh, that's right.
I mean they could be at home all year for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I like Vrabel in that conversation, just because I think that the Titans jumped the gun when they released him, and they've done nothing but struggle without his leadership. And he was able to come in and take a team that was on the outs and put together a winning team. So I would put him up there for sure in the top of that conversation as far as what do you inherit when you walk in the door. I'd say the same thing in some regards with Sean Payton. They've had some adversity, I think, with not having all of the players that they need. They don't have some of the weapons on offense to help Bo Nix out. Bo struggled, I think, throughout the year in certain situations. But at the end of the day, it comes down to your wins and losses. And, they won the AFC West after, the Chiefs have owned that title for a decade. So I think you just build some momentum on there. I think he's created a culture in Denver that says it's about us. It's not about anybody else. It's about winning every week. It's about coming out there and being competitive. And defensively, their guys have made a lot of difference in some key games that have been close. But I would put him up there and say that winning the division speaks volumes. A win on Saturday against the Chargers, that's going to be is that Saturday or Sunday?
Which one?
The Broncos and the Chargers.
Sunday.
3.
Yeah, because that's the same time as
Yeah,
Chiefs.
KC plays.
Chiefs and the Raiders. I think they're going to win that one as they sit Herbert out. And so then you're looking at a bye in the first round of the playoffs. Then you're getting the divisional game at home, which would be great. So then you're looking at you win the divisional game at home and you host the AFC Championship game. From being a Chiefs fan and watching what that does to your fan base, watching what that does carrying that momentum into the next year, that shows some stones that get your fans excited. And, all three of us were at the game on Christmas on Thursday. I was blown away by how many Broncos fans showed up out there. So a decade of being on the struggle bus, I got to give him props for coming in there and taking that organization to a new level. So that would be my guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mine, obviously, Vrabel definitely deserves his flowers for what he's done there in New England. The playoffs will tell what kind of team they actually are. Just because, everybody talks about the schedule thing, and I think they're better than people give them credit for. But to see how they stack up against, like a Texans defense or a Broncos defense or even the Chargers defense or whoever they play first round will be interesting to watch for sure. But my coach of the year, I don't think he'll necessarily win it. But Liam Cohen for the Jaguars, when he first got hired, I talked so much crap on his first interview. I said, this guy's not going to work out. Duval, I was like, this guy's a goofball. This is a guy that needs to be an offensive coordinator for the rest of his life. But, he has that locker room playing. He's the first coach to take a 4-11 team to the playoffs the next year, or not to the playoffs, but to win 12 games the next season. First year head coach. He's got Trevor Lawrence playing Pro Bowl caliber football for sure.
Man, they knocked out some good teams this year.
They knocked the Broncos off their win streak. They
got the
they
Chiefs on
effectively
Monday
killed.
night.
They effectively killed the Colts. Like they were. They didn't hurt Daniel Jones because he already hurt, but that was the game that Daniel Jones went down. And they played the Texans close, obviously, but this is a team that Trevor Lawrence is 3,700 passing yards. He has ETN over 1,000. And this is a team that's doing this without Travis Hunter, who was their first round draft pick, who is a two-way player that's supposed to be a generational talent, who showed flashes all year of being a dude. And it's exciting to see and not necessarily excited to see, but like they seem better than they were when they made that AFC Championship run with Blake Bortles at the helm. Like their defense is playing lights out. They play inspired. I feel like this is it's kind of like the Sean Payton kind of locker room of it's us versus the world. Sean Payton obviously says some stuff in his press conference just to poke fun at the other teams, and he said, "Yeah, it's good to see a small market team like Jacksonville playing good before the game." And then Combe came back everything and said, "Yeah, it's really nice when a small market team beats a big market team like that, isn't it?" And he's got some moxie in him that you didn't expect from him, and obviously you can see why last year him and Baker Mayfield were the perfect pairing. And the more you listen to him talk, you're like, yeah, these guys feed off each other's energy. And Trevor Lawrence, he's been playing lights out this year during the second half of the stretch. So Liam Cohen definitely deserves his flowers, what he's done down there in Jacksonville, especially on last year. When I was doing this podcast, I was always said, the Jaguars going into the season were one of the best teams on paper. They looked like they were going to win the division. I mean, they just came off. They lost to the Chiefs the year before in the playoffs, but just playing really good football. And then here we are now, looking at it again after a year of, I don't even know what last year was for them, but Trevor Lawrence injuries, I guess, just looks great. So Liam Cohen definitely deserves his flowers there for sure. That takes us into our question of the week. It's kind of a hard question, and obviously the season's not completely over yet. But in your guys' opinion, what's been the best game of the year so far? The game that's made you go, yeah, I'm glad that I sat down and watched that thing from start to finish. And there's a lot of good options. I think personally my favorite one, and also the environment I was in when I watched it, watching that Bills come back week 1 against the Ravens. I was hanging out with my friends, it was first Sunday night football game. We're all excited for football to be on. And then, everybody's like, oh, the Bills are done, turn the game off. I was like, no, just wait. I think Josh Allen has something in it. And then, they come back and they win it the way they do, the last second touchdown and toe tap. And, I took all my not fantasy winnings, all my gambling winnings from the day, all $56, and doubled down at the Bills plus 1,000 for them to come back and win, and they did. And I made so much money that day. It was just a great day. The environment was awesome. People I was hanging out with was awesome. Watching Josh Allen do Josh Allen things was awesome. But that one, and then obviously our 33-point comeback against the Giants was pretty awesome too. Yeah. I made a lot of betting money on that game as well, but also just watching my team come back against a team who sucks, but they were good at the time.
Right.
They had their pieces still out there. So
they were hot at the time.
They were hot. I mean, we just 33 came back 33 zip in the fourth quarter basically. But those are my top 2 favorite games so far this year.
Our high shooting game this weekend was definitely up there. I mean, I love seeing both teams coming out there and just balling out. The Bears and the Niners. I mean, that one.
That looked like 2 11-4 teams duking it out.
Yeah. So I mean, that was a really exciting game. I'm going to go out there and just put it out there on a day. I think that the best day of football for me was Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving put out 3 bangers that day. I definitely got to enjoy a full day of football, and all 3 games were great. The matchups were great. They didn't all go the way I wanted, but at the same time, having great football on Thanksgiving, bring that back every year. And it's hard to predict, in the off season where you're going to be at come week whatever that is, 14, 13. But kudos to the NFL for setting up a whole day of great football on Thanksgiving. Do you have anything that sticks out to you?
Yeah, so you kind of touched on the Baltimore-Buffalo game earlier this year. Another favorite of mine is that, and this is why part of the reason why I've been so high on the Texans. But how much better does that win look now? But coming back down from 29-10 on the Jaguars, and the Texans coming back and just winning 36-29, but it was 30-29. I said, but defense not even giving up 250 to Trevor Lawrence. They just had some mistakes early, and the way that defense showed up. And the other one was against the Bills on that Thursday night game. It was a pretty good game against the Bills, and they had 8 sacks on Josh Allen. So that was a couple of them. Another one was, ironically, I could go through middle of the year, but honestly, over the last 3 weeks, I would pick most of the game. That Rams-Seahawks game was a hell of a game.
Yeah, that was
the game on Sunday was a hell of a game. And I would say last week, the Packers-Bears game was a hell of a game. So those are the ones that stuck out to me. Also, the comeback, as it didn't start off that great. So the comeback from the Bills to the Patriots, that was another crazy game to me that stuck out. So Yeah, I would probably say the game on Sunday, the game last week with the Packers Bears, that first Baltimore Buffalo game, Seahawks and Rams. What's the other one I said? I guess that's it. Rams Seahawks, and like I said, the 2 Texans games. So.
Yeah, some great games. You know, they were obviously missing some that we're forgetting about right now. But I mean, there's great games all year. Obviously,
That Eagles Rams game.
yeah, the Eagles Rams game. Even and you know if you like football, whether you know you watch the Rams or not the Rams, the Bills Eagles game this last week. You know, monsoon weather and players sliding all over the field. It's always fun to watch. So. And they know we got Jameis Winston football again this year, which always got to be grateful when you get to watch Jameis Winston football. He didn't win a game, but it was still a blast to watch. But going to go over the Pro Bowl roster here. This dropped last week. Completely blanked on it. Pro Bowl roster is not necessarily exciting or as important. No, I'm not saying it's not as important, but it's not as big as it used to be. After you hear some of the names that I'm about to read off to you, you're going to be like, oh, that guy made it. But starting with the AFC roster here, offensively, Josh Allen, Drake May, and Justin Herbert are the quarterbacks. Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, Zay Flowers, Cortland Sutton are the wide receivers. Running backs, Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, Achane for the Dolphins made it. Fullback Patrick Card for the Ravens. Brock Bowers and Travis Kelce made it for the tight ends column, and that's one of the ones that made me go, yeah, this is a popularity contest, and all pros, all really that matters now. Because, I mean, obviously TK didn't have the year that he's had in the past, made the Pro Bowl, and there's some other AFC tight ends that I think deserved it over TK. But, you know, when you have fan vote, obviously the most popular guys are going to make it, and TK obviously has the fan vote.
Yeah.
Just for being who he is.
We'll put that out there for one of the questions for next week is, do you think that that's going to be Kelsey's last game, or do you think he'll come back for another year?
Yeah, interesting to see on that one. Offensive line, Brian Dawkins, Garrett Bowles, Joe Alt as the tackles. Gwen Mirenes, Quentin Nelson, and Trey Smith as the guards, and Creed Humphrey and Tyler Linderbaum as the centers. So that's the AFC roster there.
No Whataburger?
Nope, no Whataburger. Defensively, Myles Garrett, Will Anderson Jr., and Max Crosby, all studs across the board. Defensive line, Jeffrey Simmons, Chris Jones, Zach Allen at the D-line position. Outside linebacker, you got Nick Bonito, TJ Watt, and then I'm going to butcher his name, but Tula Pluto, the defensive end for the LA Chargers. He's had an outstanding year. Can't say his name at all, though. Roquan Smith, Azir Al-Shazir for the inside linebackers. Defensive secondary, Stingley Jr., PS2, Christian Gonzalez, and Denzel Ward. At the safety position, Jalen Ramsey, Kyle Hamilton, and Derwin James. So, you know, big names across the board. For the special teams, can't forget about the special teamers. The Ravens, Jordan Stout as the punter. Kicker, the Dicker, Cameron Dicker for the Chargers as the kicker. Chimmer, I can't even say his name. Dyke, the Titans returner, who's also has most all-purpose yards in the NFL this year, just because he gets the ball 95% of the time on the Titans plays. Ben Scrow, I can't even say his name. There's a Steelers player, Twitch could probably say his name, as a special teamer. And then the only Jacksonville Jaguar that made the Pro Bowl, Ross Masterlik, as the long snapper. So good for him. Good. Only guy who I think there's probably some other guys on the Jaguars that deserved a Pro Bowl vote or made the Pro Bowl, but they didn't make it. So
Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence maybe, but going over to the NFC here, Matt Stafford, Dak Prescott, and Sam Darnold as the quarterbacks. Wide receiver wise, Puka Nacua, Jackson Smith, and George Pickens and St. Brown, all there as the receivers. So some studs. In the running back room, you got Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian McCaffrey, and Bijan Robinson. Another three guys. You're like, okay, that makes sense. Fullback is Juszczyk, obviously, for all the stuff he does. There's a stat that came out on Monday. He's in motion. I think he said 74% of the time when he's on the field. He's the motion guy, which is outrageous for a fullback, but he's kind of their gadget do-it-all guy. Tight ends is Trey McBride and George Kittle. Another George Kittle made it because of his name. Obviously, he's been hurt all year and doesn't really have the numbers, but still made another Pro Bowl. At the tackle position, Penny Sewell, Tristan Wirfs, and Trent Williams. At the guards, Tyler Smith for the Cowboys, Joe Thuney, Chris Linderbaum. And for the centers, you got Drew Dahlman and Cam Jurgens at the centers. So, now that they don't play a football game, I don't really think the positions matter. You can just read the names off about who made it, but it's still fun to see what big guys made it, for me at least. Defensive end-wise, Aiden Hutchinson, Micah Parsons, and DeMarcus Lawrence, all guys that have been huge impacts on their team, obviously. Jalen Carter, Leonard Williams, and Quinnen Williams at D-line. Brian Burns, Jared Verse, and Byron Young at the outside linebackers, which is kind of cool to see that, two outside linebackers from the same team both made the Pro Bowl, and Jared Verse and Byron Young. But that just shows how dominant that defense has been this year. Jack Campbell and Zach Bond inside linebackers. J.C. Horn, Devin Lenderspoon, Cooper DeJean, Quinion Mitchell as my cornerbacks. And then at the safety position, we got Kevin Byard, Winfield Jr., and Buda Baker for the Cardinals. Special teams, Tress Way, longtime punter for the Commanders. Aubrey for the Cowboys. Rashid Sneed for the Seahawks. Luke Gifford for the 49ers as their special teamer. And John Weeks as the long snapper, who's also a 49er. So those are the Pro Bowl rosters. Not that anybody really cares nor really watches it unless you're watching the dodgeball or the flag football game. But besides that,
No, I was going to say before you got into that, as we look at the playoff pictures, I do feel like the NFC overall has more rounded out teams than the AFC. I think the AFC's got holes in a lot of areas that are, wild cards when it comes to how they're going to perform. I think that the NFC teams in general are more well-rounded. So I feel like the AFC teams need to continue to step up and play really well, because we got to see that with just about every NFC team here recently. They're gaining momentum, and I don't see the same level of talent per se in the AFC. So be curious to see how those end up.
Most definitely. Coming up next, we're going to recap some games. This week we had some shootouts. We also had some non-shootouts that we're still going to talk about, a couple upsets. So we're excited to get into that coming up next. We're going to start off with the Texans-Chargers game here. So Houston Texans get a 20-16 win over the LA Chargers. C.J. Stroud, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. On the ground, they rushed for 118 yards in total between Woody Marks, Jordan, Hutchinson. Chubb went 1 for 1. And, receiving-wise, Jaden Higgins, 88 yards and a touchdown through the air, with Nico Collins with 3 for 57. On the Chargers side of things, Justin Herbert, 236 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 5 sacks. I already talked about the QB hurries earlier. And then Justin Herbert also leading the team in rushing yards, which is a problem, 6 for 37 yards. And then Amario Hampton, 29 yards and a touchdown. Quentin Johnson, 98 yards. And then Gadsden, the rookie tight end, 32 yards and a touchdown there. So, I feel like this game was the epitome of what both these teams are, what one team's good at, one team's been struggling with all year. With the Texans defense, obviously, that's been their strong point. That's been who we've talked about for the last couple months here. And then the Chargers, obviously, struggling to get Justin Herbert any kind of rush game. Him leading the team in rushing yards for, I'm guessing, the 3rd week in a row, if I remember right. So, Justin Herbert's running for his life out here with a broken hand, which is not ideal, especially when it's a John Harbaugh football, which is, known for its physicality and ground and pound football, and you can't you only try to run the ball 22 times, which I get it. This defense is, a rough team to run it against. So you gotta come in with different intent. But just it kind of felt like it was the Chargers' game to lose, and they kind of gave it away. And I know the Texans defense is. People have been saying don't put them on primetime because nobody wants to watch that kind of football. But, for me, as trying to become more of a defensive guy, I really enjoyed watching the Texans. But this game did not get to watch it, but I watched the highlights, and it was very, very defensive-oriented on both sides of the ball.
There's very few defensive good teams anymore, like the way it used to be. Like now a good defense is one usually you have the Chiefs, the Rams, the Broncos. But other than that, a good defense is still giving up 20, 23 points a week. So, sorry, I didn't mean to butt in.
I think if you told me the Texans won the Super Bowl because they gave up 16 points every playoff game, I'd believe you. But I don't know if their offense can score more than 16 every game as well. So
right, I feel like that's what's going to hold them back eventually in the playoffs. They can do some damage because it's kind of like Denver last year. That you watched Houston. I said I've watched a lot this year. Yeah. That defense is championship caliber, without a shadow of a doubt. It's just where their offense can do enough. But that was what I took from it was Houston getting the early lead, and then like C.J. Stroud looking great early, and then really hard to watch on offense the rest of the game. They got the lead and moved the ball when they needed to. But to me, I said the Chargers obviously had some missed opportunities, but my biggest takeaway was the Texans. As bad as their offense played the second half, I shouldn't say bad, but just didn't really do a whole lot. I said that was what I took from that game was just Texans defense. Again, was the story of the game to me. I don't put that on I thought Herbert made some nice throws. They drove the ball a couple of times, but, right before the half, Houston turns it over. So what's Houston do? The next play, they get their own interception in the red zone. Then Houston fumbles. So what do? They hold them out, and they get a sack on third down, misses a field goal. So, it's just like Houston's defense, both of those times. And I think there was one other time where they went for it on fourth down, too, the Chargers. Yeah. So it was just one of those things, like all three times, and with those three drives, the Chargers got 3 points. That just as good as good as the Texans' offense started off and as bad as they finished, and you could sit there and blame the Chargers having home, like being at home, having opportunities. That was my takeaway of the game. I don't even put it on the Chargers. I put it completely on that Texans defense. It was 20-10 up until the last couple. Then the Chargers had a nice drive to score with like 2 or 3 minutes left, but by then it was 20-16. And then so it was just like that. That was what I took away from it. It's like if C.J. Stroud can play better, and had a couple times where he had a couple drop interceptions and also turned the ball over twice, just getting pressure and he just kind of threw it up there, lobbed it in the air, just throwing stuff, trying to do too much. So if they don't turn the ball over. Houston will be a tough out. I don't know if they can put enough on offense, but that defense is championship caliber ready, and they showed it again. We're talking about the teams they do it to: Jacksonville, the Chargers, the Bills, all these playoff teams, even the Broncos, all under 20 points. So they do it every week. So
it'd be interesting to see how both those teams shake out in the playoffs. But next game we're going to recap here. The Philadelphia Eagles get a win over the Buffalo Bills 13-12 in a monsoon game. It was on and off raining and snowing the whole game. Tom Brady, gave a shout out to OJ wearing one glove the whole game, and it was the glove that OJ put on in the courtroom. But that might have been a coincidence, but it was definitely loud on the internet, and I said, I definitely have to talk about that just because I noticed he was wearing one glove during the broadcast and I didn't think anything of it. And then, the internet does what it does and put stuff in front of you. You're like, oh, wow, well, that's an interesting fact there. But we'll start out with the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, despite the rainstorm, 23 of 35, 262 yards, 7.5 through the air. I feel like a big turning point in this game was he took 5 sacks for 51 yards, that one last sack being terrible, running backwards, doing Josh Allen things. Yeah. But obviously you're playing in the rain, you're playing on a hurt foot, and it takes a huge sack. It
takes him out of field goal range.
It takes him out of field goal range when they had points. Yeah. And then he'd end up losing by 1 that really comes back to.
And he knew that cost him too. As soon as that was over, and some of that is that quarterback that's always trying to make a play, don't ever give up. But that's also where you say there's times where you have to recognize, just throw the ball away, and look what that one play cost you. Yeah, cost you field goal, cost you points. Ultimately, that you needed to win the game. Yeah, especially if you're going to go for 2.
Right. Right.
That doesn't become a question at that point.
Yeah, very much so. James Cook, another 74 yards on the ground. Josh Allen, 27 yards and 2 touchdowns, 2 tush pushes, 2 goal line. Whatever the Buffalo Bills tush push version is, the Josh Allen jump over the line because you're a 6'5" quarterback. Brandon Cooks having himself a day, leading the league in drops, and then coming out 4 receptions for 101 yards. Going to the Eagles, on the other hand, we talked about we got shut out in the second half, but 110 yards and 1 touchdown out of Jalen. Saquon, 68 yards. A.J. Brown, 5 receptions for 68. And then Dallas Goedert getting 3 catches for 8 yards and a touchdown. Then they're in the red zone. So, I mean, the Eagles' defense is really the MVP of this game. Making Josh Allen run around feeling uncomfortable. 5 sacks, 6 QB hurries, or 6 QB hits. So, in games like that, when the weather conditions aren't, manageable or tolerable, one single play can cost you the game, and we saw that prime example this week with, the huge sack that took him out of field goal range after a turnover. So, it's very interesting to see for real, but excited about another 2 teams. The Eagles kind of getting hot and down the stretch here, which I didn't think was going to happen, but here we are.
Yeah.
It wasn't a pretty game by any means. I enjoyed watching it just because I'm a football weather guy, and I enjoy rain and snow and all that crap. But also, 13-12. If you're offensive guy, you're like, ah.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Sunday night football and the Monday night football game definitely made up for that, though.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, and it's just frustrating because at the beginning of the year, and it still very well could be a Super Bowl preview between the Eagles and Bills. I don't think that'll be the case now because of the Eagles. But take it for what it is. It's a tale of 2 halves again this week. But the Eagles still, up until the fourth quarter, held Josh Allen scoreless at Buffalo. So like you said, the defense was definitely the star of the game, and the Philadelphia offense making enough plays early. But we've seen this with the Bucs, with the Rams, where they have one good half and one bad half. The offense, I feel like give or take 1 or 2 games, struggling to put a whole game together, which is why I think it's going to bite them in the playoffs. So it's like it was muddy. It was kind of what Philadelphia wanted. They wanted to muddy the water. Rain, nasty game. Good defensive effort, but yeah, this to me was more about Buffalo losing it more than Philadelphia winning. They play them at home, had their chances in the first half, and then the second half, like I said, between the sack that you talked about and the 2-point conversion, like I said earlier in the show. Most of the time, I like the aggressiveness, but you only allow 20 yards or less than 20 yards in the second half. You kick the extra point and you go into overtime, you get the ball anyway. So, like I said, at that point, Buffalo still had the division in line. Instead of it's probably an outside shot because the Patriots will probably win this week, but they still had a chance at the division. So, like I said, cost you the game, cost you a chance at the division, and a home playoff game. And so, I think Buffalo will be fine. Like I said, I don't want to take too much away from the Eagles though, because it's just like as ugly as that was and as bad as their offense is, it's confused. Like those kind of things can be corrected, and it's like that's kind of been the Eagles all year. Like not as good as they were last year. They're not even as good, you can tell, but they still win more times than they're not. It's like I don't want to say they're not trying. It's just kind of sloppy. I mean, but it also says something for 3 quarters holding Josh Allen scoreless at home too. So
especially when there's all this talk about, at the beginning of the season, who are your top quarterbacks in the AFC, and then you remove Lamar Jackson effectively from the conversation. Not that the Ravens are out of it, but then you remove Burrow from the conversation. The Chiefs aren't in it. So when you look at the big 4 quarterbacks in the AFC and you go, this is your chance to rise up. I mean, that's been the conversation is, can you get it done?
Yeah.
And here it is with a huge game on the line. You don't get it done.
Yeah.
And, some of that's the play calling, but he didn't execute the play when he had to.
No, he had a guy.
He definitely gave up big plays. And so that's where, your big-time players make big-time plays in big situations. And he didn't do it.
Right.
And so that's where this is still an opportunity to say, hey, some of those other QBs, ones that are out there that everybody always compares him to,
Yeah.
are not in the equation
Yeah.
per se. And so, if you can't do it now,
Yeah.
I think you've lost a lot of momentum as far as the
Right.
hype that goes in to, where Josh Allen is as far as a top QB. So, yeah.
Well, and I just want to touch on too. It's just like I don't think enough's been talked about over the last month how much better Buffalo's defense has been too. So I know that Philadelphia's been inconsistent on offense. I said, but if they can figure that out, I said, this is where it comes back again because you live by the sword, die by the sword. Just you like, yeah, if Allen doesn't take that sack and he missed that, like you said, I agree. 95% out of 100, Josh Allen hits that 95 out of 100. That being said, it just goes to show 1 week he does it every week, against the Bengals and stuff like that, where I feel like the Bills rely too much on Josh Allen. They win half their games like that, and he does make those plays. Yeah. And then the other part, when he doesn't, then he becomes magnified. That's not against your point, but it's just like there's going to have to be somebody else in the playoffs, whether it's Dalvin Cook, whether it's one of those wide receivers, like someone else is going to have to step up besides just Josh Allen.
Very much so. I mean, it's kind of, we were talking, the wheels haven't fell off like it did for the Chiefs. We said that with Mahomes. Mahomes leading the team in rushing and passing. He's doing all these things, and it was working for a little bit. But then we saw what happened in that case, and hope it doesn't happen to Josh Allen in the same way, and hope the wheels don't come off that way. But at the same time, you can't. It's kind of like the same thing with the Chargers. You can't have your quarterback leading the team in rushing yards and expect to be successful down the stretch.
Right.
And we've seen that with multiple teams.
Well, I'm knocking on wood just for the fact of, barring injury, which I wouldn't wish that on just about anybody, but
Just about.
Maybe Myles Garrett.
Well, I have some. I say that joking. I don't actually wish injury on anybody, but I'd be confident to say this is probably the last time in a while where he's not going to have at least Mahomes, Jackson. I bet Jackson gets in, or Burrow.
A little preview there.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, how often do you think you're going to have that? And then I said, now obviously with the evolution of May and Nix and guys like that, and even Herbert now. So if who knows? Just about as far as the guys that
T-Law, man.
Yeah,
C.J. Stroud's out there playing football as well.
Yeah, but I bet this is the last time for a while, barring injury or some crazy trades this offseason, where you're not going to have in the AFC. You're not going to have to worry about Mahomes, Burrow, or I still don't have Jackson, even though I think Baltimore will get in.
Still.
I don't feel like Baltimore's a real contender.
This is your first time that, you don't have a Super Bowl winning quarterback standing between you and the chip. So, Interested to see what happens there. Rolling into my personal favorite game of the week. The San Francisco 49ers get a win over the Chicago Bears 42-38. This game was the opposite of the game we were just talking about. If you liked offensive football and big plays and explosive football, this is the perfect game for you. Caleb Williams played a hell of a game. I think the Bears are a year away from being elite on both sides of the football. Caleb Williams still is just missing some passes that you're, like little check downs or quick out routes that an NFL quarterback should hit, and he just misses them wide. And so, that just comes with time, obviously. Bo Nix would hit it, but we're not talking about that right now. Yeah. But Caleb Williams, 25 of 42, 330 yards, 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift, 54 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Rookie receiver Luther Burden stepping up to the plate with Rome Odunze being out. Another healthy scratch, a guy who could have come back and played, but they're saving him for the playoffs because, playoff football is more important than Week 17 football. But Luther Burden, 138 yards, 1 touchdown. Both the rookies kind of leading it the way here with Colston Loveland, their first-round tight end pick, 94 yards and a touchdown. So it's a great game on that side of the ball. I mean, obviously you miss some passes you throw. They had a chance to go down and win it, or go down and tie it, and Caleb Williams threw that pass and it didn't work out. Which it kind of seems like if there's a clutch situation, Caleb Williams needs to throw the ball. He's going to roll to his left, try to make something happen. I mean, he did it against the Packers and got intercepted. Did it against the Packers again.
Yeah,
worked
out.
So I mean, if I'm a defensive coordinator and I get in that situation, I'm probably thinking maybe blitz Caleb off the left side so he has to roll another way. But He's 1-3 at that, doing it right now. So maybe let him do it again. I don't know. But rolling over to the 49ers, who had an absolute offensive day too. Brock Purdy, 303 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Christian McCaffrey, 140 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Brock Purdy, 28 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ricky Purcell, their rookie first-round receiver at last year, who's a bit missed time this year and last year, 85 yards. And then Jake Tones, the tight end, stepping up for George Kittle, 60 yards and a touchdown, with Juwan Jennings, 42 yards and a touchdown there. And then can't forget about the Hughes Check, 1 touchdown, receiving touchdown for 14 yards.
Keep in mind that one interception of Purdy, too, was the first play of the game.
Yeah.
And then he came back out there and just started threading
Lights
the needle.
out football.
So that's why I said I'm going to put him up there with, as a player of the week, just because I thought that showed great moxie, that didn't get him rattled. He came up there and had a game. And that's 2 or 3 weeks in a row now that he's been playing lights out. So
Yeah, I think they said since in the last 4 weeks he's 7-1 in his passing touchdown to interception ratio. So he threw 1 interception in the last 4 weeks. He's been playing lights out football ever since that last primetime game he played. He had 4 interceptions, I think. So yeah, I mean, he's had a terrible game and then just playing lights out football since. But I mean, this game was, what was it? The first game that was 35-35, with each team responding the next drive.
Yeah.
Since the Broncos and Ravens did it in the playoffs with Tim Tebow there.
in the 80s, I thought it was
when it might not have been, but yeah, I mean, it was a long time ago, and it's been even longer since it was during regular season football. So I mean, a great game to watch. I think the Bears proved that they can hang, and they're an elite team for sure. Obviously, you'd have some pieces missing. I mean, Rome Dunze in that game would be huge, and I find it kind of interesting that they have DJ Moore listed as their wide receiver 1, but only 1 catch for 7 yards. So I mean, and obviously Ben Johnson's been not afraid to go away from his number 1 receivers. We saw that last year, and with the Lions, that Amon-Ra would have 1 catch for 7 yards, but not Trey McBride. Sam Laporta and J-Mo would have 150 yards combined and 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, exciting to watch. Love this game. Brock Purdy probably had my favorite play of the year. And Jim Nantz said, if that was Patrick Mahomes right now, I'd be yelling. And then Tirico was like, yeah, you would. You probably need to stop doing that as often. It was kind of fun to, because he could tell he was kind of sick of it too. But it was Brock, Brock Purdy rolls to the left, he steps up, jukes out the D lineman, and then splits. Then he splits the other D lineman coming to him and throws the touchdown dart. I mean, just absolute.
And then you get the nice little silly dance.
Yeah,
too.
and he's always hitting the Dougie after it. That's been his playoff ever since. So, or been his touchdown celebration since he came back from injury. So, it's great to watch. I mean, watching the Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the NFL draft. Nobody thought he was going to be anything. To see how he's playing football now has been a blast to watch. Especially, watching him play at Iowa State. I watched him play at K-State a couple times when they played K-State, and he's like, this guy's good. I mean, he's small, obviously. He's shorter for an NFL guy, but he's built like a brick shit house. I mean, he's 220, 6 foot, and he's just jacked. So it's fun to watch him play football, especially in the Kyle Shanahan offense that's all motions and gimmicks and fun to watch. But it's a great game to watch, though.
No, they said, we all 3 said that was one of the games of the year. Said, look, it looked like 2 11 and 14. So they said all the way up to 35 every time. One team looked like they had the momentum. Then I was impressed on the Chicago side of the ball. To me, with the Niners and the 2 games against Green Bay and the win against the Eagles and stuff, like Chicago has proven time and time again that I feel like they're a legitimate contender, at least in the NFC playoffs. And I really hate to say this because I was thinking about this the other day, is because we all 3 love the energy and the mentality of Dan Campbell, and I think he deserves his flowers. But it just goes to show with Chicago and like how good the offense was the last 2 years prior in Detroit, how much of that was Ben Johnson. I mean, seriously, like I said, as much as I love Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson showing creative. I mean, well, we've talked about this earlier in the year, but it's like when you have Eric Bieniemy as your running backs coach, who won the Super Bowls with Mahomes, like he's not even the offensive coordinator, so you have some great offensive minds. I think for the playoffs, like you said, Johnson not afraid to go away from his superstar for a game plan. but I feel like more has to be more involved in the offense. Not that it hurt them, but the other thing, like I said, obviously Caleb Williams, kind of like the first time against Green Bay. More often than not, Caleb Williams, to my surprise, I thought he'd be good, but I wasn't a full believer. So he's shown me enough, even though they didn't get a touchdown there, to put him in position. Like more often than not, we've talked about it in the middle of the year when he had a couple game-winning drives in a row. I'm impressed with what I've seen out of Williams in those. Even though he didn't get the play of that last play, I'm impressed with his play in crunch time specifically, and I believe Chicago is a legitimate contender. Do I think that they'll beat a Niners or even the Eagles again, or maybe? Yeah,
depends on when Eagles team shows up,
right? Or the Seahawks, but I'm just like Chicago has definitely shown they belong, and hell of a game. They had chances to win it down to the end, and. Kudos to them. On the flip side of that, we kind of touched on it earlier. I hate to repeat a point, but it was just like San Francisco flying under the radar. Here they are now, 12-4, and Brock Purdy since he's come back is just playing outside of his mind. So the last 2 weeks combining for 5 touchdowns apiece, and you can just tell last year I feel like it was A, injury, and B, people wanted to know. Was Purdy really worth all that money? Was he really that guy? He was Mr. Irrelevant. Were they overpaying him? Was that 1 year in the Super Bowl? And he took San Francisco all the way to overtime and made plays in the clutch in the Super Bowl that young against Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean? Purdy played on the big stage, played well, but they want to see how it was for a repeat. So after last year, which I think a lot of it had to do with injury, but getting that big money, this was supposed to be a year of, okay, is Purdy really worth that money, or did he just have 2 really good years? Did people figure him out? And then for Mac Jones to come in and play pretty well overall, get some wins for them, is I think we both said, yeah, I think Purdy's still the guy. But then to just he just looks like he's playing loose and having fun right now every week. And says that in San Francisco, it to me is one of the top 3 teams going in the playoffs, just red hot right now. So that's what I took about it from both sides. For Chicago, that they're legitimate playoff contenders, they've shown that. Impressed with Williams' play in the clutch, even though they didn't get it done this time. But on the flip side of that, the Niners, just next man up mentality, and every time they needed a big play in the second half, Purdy delivered, and they'll be a tough out, especially if it goes through San Francisco. So
very much so.
Great game.
Yeah. But both those teams, the 49ers kind of sneaking up here, and the Bears proving that they won the division. Who I don't think anybody had them marked, especially with who the Lions were supposed to be and then who the Packers were supposed to be. I don't think anybody saw the Bears coming out and winning that division, but they locked it up this last week. The last game we're going to recap here, another great game. Wasn't really great in the first half, but second half the Rams made it interesting. The Rams lose to the Falcons. Yes, that's right, the Atlanta Falcons, 27-24. Matt Stafford had his worst game and kind of threw himself out of MVP contention, in my opinion. 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Kyron Williams, 92 yards on the ground. Xavier Smith, 67 yards. Terrence Ferguson, 54 yards and a touchdown. Colby Parkinson, 53 yards. And then Puka Nacua, 47 yards and a touchdown. Puka Nacua had countless catches that were called back for penalties, or he had that one catch on the last throw of the game that it was a drop.
That was crazy.
The last angle they pulled up was a drop, but the rest of them looked like he caught a one-handed catch, which
left-handed,
outrageous catch. It looked. I didn't look at the fantasy thing because I knew I was going to lose the fantasy anyway, so I didn't check it. But it looked like Puka had another 200 yards receiving, but I didn't realize they all got called back from penalty. Just that offensive line, that tackle they had in there was just. He wasn't good.
No, Constant one in the end zone for sure, and I think one of them was down on the 5.
Yeah, and the same thing with the drive. The last drive they were talking about, Puka had the catch. Before that, they threw it up to I think it was Tutu Atwell, and he caught the ball at the 5-yard line, and he gets called back by holding by the exact same guy. So that guy must have bet on the Falcons. Is all I can figure.
And that catch in the end zone was phenomenal. It came up, came down on his back with the ball. I can't imagine how frustrating that is for a wide receiver to go out there and have those opportunities. You got to be excited. You don't realize.
Yeah, you're celebrating you just scored.
Yeah, just a 60-yard bomb, and then you turn around and everybody's walking back to the line of scrimmage. I don't know how you don't go up there and have
Has some
have
choice words. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
DK.
Yeah. Rolling to the Falcons side, Kirk Cousins, 126 yards, 1 touchdown. Bijan Robinson, 22 carries, 195 yards, 1 touchdown. A 93-yard run in there, 8.9 yards a carry. Kirk Cousins had a rushing yard, so I made money off of that. I bet Kirk Cousins over 0.5 rushing yards. I always do because, he's a little bit more mobile than people give him credit for.
T-Bone had one of those plays in high school. It was like an 80-yard touchdown. I mean, he gets all the way down the end zone his senior year, and I mean, he's so excited. And he turns around, and everybody's still standing like at the 30 on the Bears side, and it was Jared Miller got called for a holding penalty. He's like, "What's up with this, bro?" So yeah, so I know it's frustrating, and
Has to
your
be.
teammates and stuff before everything, but that cost Puka a couple big plays. It cost the Rams points.
Cost me a ring.
It cost baby.
No, I was down 60 points. I didn't think Puka was putting up a 60 bomb, but he could have if he would have. Some of those plays would have hit, I guess. I don't
Right.
know. But, I mean, shout out the Rams for not giving up. They were down 21-zip at half, and then they kick a field goal early in the third and kind of claw back all the way down. Receiving-wise, David Stills and Darnell Mooney, 37 and 35 yards. Bijan, 34 in the touchdown. Drake London getting locked down for 1 catch for 4 yards. But just an outrageous, another fun game to watch. Not in the same way that it was fun to watch the Bears 49ers game, but just watch. As soon as the Falcons scored the first touchdown, I texted the group chat. I said, "Fuck the Falcons, I'm done." And then I watched them go up 21-zip, and I said, "Oh boy." And then I may or may not have put $5 on the Rams to come back. It looked like they were going to, and then they didn't. So, I mean, that's neither here nor there. I mean, when you gamble, you expect to lose. I always expect to lose when I put bets, so I'm just happy I win some sometimes. But it's a very Falcons thing to do. And it's crazy to talk about the Falcons. If they beat the Jets, they're in the playoff hunt right now. They have to beat the Saints, and they'd be the AFC South or the NFC South representative, but we don't talk about that because that's the Falcons. that literally chalks up their whole season. That you literally beat the New York Jets, who are going to have a top 3 draft pick in the NFL draft, and you can.
Wait, no, they lost to the Jets.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if they would have beat the Jets, they would be representing the NFC South if they beat the Saints this week. But they lost to the Jets, who are going to have a top 3 draft pick,
And the Saints.
and the Saints,
And swept by the Panthers.
and
And
none
they
of
lost
that
3-0.
None of that matters if you beat the Jets. But here we are talking about the Falcons at 7-9 beating the 11-5 LA Rams.
Well, I think the two sides, I said like kudos to both sides. And I say that on the one side we'll go with the Rams. I said I don't know how much of a hangover because we've been all over the Rams and Seahawks. I said, but after losing the one game and then giving up to Seattle, and then having Seattle play the night before, or not Seattle, but San Francisco play the night before. I don't know if they just get kind of lost and be like, well, shoot, I don't know. Like if they were like on the outside looking in of the NFC West, so if they just took the Falcons light, like, oh, they're not very good. These other, you know what I mean? Like the Niners and Seahawks are playing for the NFC West, so I don't know if they just thought, well, shit, now we can't win the division because San Francisco won. I don't think so. I think they just took the Falcons lightly. I give more credit to the Falcons there. I mean, yeah, I think the Rams kind of slept on them, but like I said, kudos to the Rams also for coming back the second half and almost pulling out the comeback. But I feel like it was just Atlanta doesn't get a lot of primetime games. They knew they weren't going to go to the playoffs, so it's kind of like their Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Kirk Cousins coming in and really solidifying the quarterback position. Played pretty good football over the last month. On top of last night, it was obvious. Like you kind of touched on the stats, almost 200 total yards for a bunch of people that don't typically watch Bijan Robinson, who had, I don't have it right in front of me, it was either 1,600 or 1,800 total yards and
I
almost
think
20.
he had 1,800 total yards and
Like 20 touchdowns or 18 touchdowns
Yeah.
last year. So the guy's been an all-pro caliber, not just Pro Bowl, but all-pro the last 2 years. But not a lot of people watch him because it's in the Atlanta market and they're not a very good team. No. But, obviously you got first touchdown and then averaging 9 yards a run and then that 93-yard touchdown to break the game wide open. And then, I said, from there, then Atlanta just kind of got to coast. And yeah, I said, it was more to me about Bijan Robinson and the Falcons last night. The Rams definitely pissed down their leg. Shouldn't have lost to a team like that. They're the better team, obviously. But Falcons came out and they wanted it more. And I think it comes from Kirk Cousins having ready to play and Bijan Robinson showing the world who he is. So
Yeah, because I don't watch hardly any Atlanta Falcons games.
Yeah.
And I sent a message last night. I said, I went into our fantasy football league. I was going with the same strategy of drafting a couple big-time running backs because that's who I'm going to lean on. I ended up with McCaffrey this year, and Jonathan Taylor, and Henry. So, I mean, I was stacked up at the running back position. But I said, I'm going to have to definitely pay more attention to Bijan. I said, because, man, he played aggressive. Some of the cutbacks that he made, the speed, after contact. I mean, he was certainly impressive. And Chris, he got like 1,700 yards last year and 20 touchdowns. I'm like, yeah, well, when you don't watch the Falcons play ever, I would not have known who this guy was. But after watching him play in a performance like that, he'll be somebody that I'm looking for next year as one of the top 5 running backs in the league.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he
Rightfully
just
so.
doesn't get credit because he plays for the Falcons.
Right. But as much as people rightfully so talk about Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley, the next 2 guys I think about that don't get enough credit is Jamar Gibbs and Bijan Robinson. He's on that short list.
So, load up your fantasy teams now.
Gibbs definitely deserves more credit than he gets.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the Lions' offense.
Yeah.
If he goes, they go, for sure. But,
Get
gonna
my
playoff.
consecutive fantasy football rings.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll talk about that now. LSV won the fantasy football championship this year. He beat me because Derrick Henry put up an outrageous amount of stats. And Maynard Lee talked about it, 220 yards. And then Puka Nacua shit the bed. And same thing with Sam Darnold. I knew Sam Darnold was going to carry me to a championship. I don't know why I kept him, but here we are. I picked up Jameis Winston, hoping he can energize the boys, and he didn't. J-Dub let me down.
On that same note, on Christmas Day, I had to pay off my bet to Big Willie for the Chiefs losing to the Broncos on November 16th at Denver. And so
huge shout out to Greg. He handled that. He handled it like a champ. I mean, I didn't know how it was going to go, but it went better than I expected for sure. And a lot of people enjoyed the sign. The sign hasn't been posted yet because due to some editing issues, and our videographer who was taking a video of it is a terrible video guy. So bad I can't clip a 10-second video together. So I'm working on to figure out a way to make it more watchable for you guys. But
definitely people inside the stadium came up to me and said, props for you for holding up your end of a bet, going to Arrowhead and having to wear a sign that says Chiefs fans or Patriots fans with less class, and then something pricey on the back side of it. And of course I was in my Chiefs boxers and my Russian fur hat, making the best of a bad situation.
Got a couple.
And what about your vest
around.
and your cowboy boots too?
Yeah. So, and a lot of people came up to me, just said, "You guys are obviously out here having a great day." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm with." It's Christmas, and Christmas is supposed to be all about being with your family and stuff. But my family was on the field that day, so I got to go see T doing his thing on the field, and that was a proud dad moment. But not so much a proud dad moment in the parking lot. But we'll hopefully get some pictures up here. We only have a month left to podcast, but we'll get a few things up there and work on regrouping some things that we can do to improve some stuff next year. We've been kicking around some ideas, but if you got anything, ideas for
drop
us,
them down in the comments, or if you know
always.
us personally, reach out and we'll gladly take your recommendations. I'm gonna roll through our playoff picture as of right now. So the Patriots lock up the AFC East at 13-3. Pittsburgh and Baltimore will play on Sunday night to decide who wins the AFC North, and the other person will be sitting at home.
Whoever wins that will be the 4 seed automatically.
Yeah, we'll get the 4 seed automatically and host a playoff game.
Yeah.
And then the AFC South, Jacksonville and Houston are playing. So basically they're playing for whoever wins will host a playoff game. The other one will have to go on the road. Denver locks up the AFC West with the loss by the LA Chargers. LA Chargers will make the wild card. So right now it's the Patriots and the Broncos. If the Broncos beat the Chargers this week, they'll lock up the 1. If not, then the New England Patriots. But the Patriots lose to Miami, and then Jacksonville has to win, and then I don't remember.
Have New England and Denver lose.
Yeah, New England and Denver both have to lose. I thought there was a kicker team too. I could be wrong though, but yeah. So they both have to lose, and then Jacksonville will get the 1 seed there.
They can be the 1 seed, or they could be a wild card.
Yeah, they could be a wild card team for sure.
If
So
Houston wins and they lose.
it would be crazy to see that one. Over on the NFC side of things, the Philadelphia Eagles had the East locked up for a while now, but they're moved to 11-5. They're playing for the 2 seed really, in the whole scheme of things. The NFC North, the Chicago Bears lock up the NFC North. We talked about nobody's really saw coming, but 11-5. The Green Bay Packers will be that 9-6-1 wild card seed no matter how this week goes, so they could be 9-8-1 and make it in, because that ties the kicker over Carolina or Tampa Bay if they would make it in over them. Carolina and Tampa Bay are playing for the NFC South, with one caveat is if Atlanta beats New Orleans, then Carolina makes it in either way. So it's because of the weird tiebreaker thing. They take away the most common opponent, and all kinds of weird
If there's a
three-way tie, then it goes to point differential or whatever, and then the Carolina Panthers would have it over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So there's a chance that the 8 and 9 Carolina Panthers would make the playoffs here. But I think Carolina wins it outright. And then the NFC West, we have the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers playing for the NFC West matchup there. There'll be 3 teams out of the West that make the playoffs. LA is already locked in that wild card spot. They'll be the 6 seed. And then whoever loses that game will be the 5, and whoever wins that game will be the 1. So that game has a lot of weight on it, but also no weight at all, because, I mean, you want to rest your guys for a week, but also you already made the playoffs, so it'll be interesting to see how both those coaches handle, how aggressive they're going to be with play calling. And I'm guessing
they go all out.
guessing there'll be a shootout either way, but I'm
They're
guessing
fine for that bye and that 1 seed home field advantage.
I'm guessing the 49ers
Yeah.
will definitely be the first team that'll kind of reel it back a little bit. We saw it do it last week with Trent Williams and Kittle, and then there's a rumor out there. Fred Warner put out the rumor, so you can take it as you will. But Fred Warner rumored to come back for the first round of the playoffs off a broken foot, which will be outrageously crazy. But Fred himself said that he's looking to get cleared, and Fred Warner, even Fred Warner at 75% is still
Better
a
than
dangerous man.
95%,
Yeah,
yeah.
better than 95% of the NFL as is right now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
They call him Freddy Krueger for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, dude's a scary man. Like, they were showing, like, you know he's good, but you don't really realize it because I don't sit around and watch linebacker highlights. But they showed some of his highlights before he went on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
And this guy, I mean, just some of the freak athlete plays he makes, like one-hand interceptions and crazy sacks on Josh Allen and stuff. You're like, okay, well, this guy deserves more props than he gets. I mean, obviously he's an all-pro. But some college football talk here real quick.
Well, I just want to say one thing, if I could. Just like, if you're an NFL schedule maker, just say we're talking about Week 18, and we have 4 divisions still up for grabs. Both 1 seeds are still up for grabs. On top of, like we kind of touched on it with Jacksonville, can end up anywhere from the 5 or 6 seed all the way to the 1 seed. So a lot still to play. Like, you talk about meaningful games this weekend in every time slot. I mean, you said you have 2. Again, of course, you said that you kind of touched on the caveat with the Panthers Bucks, but icto facto, and I think the Falcons will probably win. So, but you have 3 of the games that are going to decide, pretty much probably going to decide the division. Between that, the Seahawks and Niners game, and the Steelers Ravens. So I just want to point that out, so that we're sitting here Week 18, and there's half the divisions are still undecided.
Yeah.
And home field advantage has not been decided. Like, everything's still up for grabs. I mean, obviously, all playoff spots except for, ironically, both 4 seeds and division winners. Whoever the worst team, like the worst divisional
team to make
record.
it in.
Yeah.
The playoff picture, if it started today, it would be Seattle and Denver getting the 1 seeds, with Houston playing at Pittsburgh, the LA Chargers playing at Jacksonville, and the Buffalo Bills playing at New England. For the NFC side, we would have the 49ers going to Carolina, we would have the Rams going to Philly, which we saw happen last year, and then we'd have the Packers going to the Bears. So if it started today, we'd have some great matchups.
I just want to point out, sorry. Why the Texans also jumped from the 7 to the 5 is because they all have 5 losses, but the Texans also got the head-to-head against the Bills. They got the head-to-head against the Chargers. So
yeah, and they have the head-to-head. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think of those head-to-heads really come back to haunt you here in the backstretch here. It's a quick college football talk. New Year's Eve and New Year's Day will be the college football games. Talked about it last week. We got Miami and Ohio State playing in the Cotton Bowl. We have Oregon, and that's on New Year's Eve. Kickoff at 6:30 on ESPN. On New Year's Day itself, we have Oregon and Texas Tech playing in the Orange Bowl at 11. At 3 o'clock, we have Alabama and Indiana. And then at 7, we have Ole Miss and Georgia. All these games are on ESPN and ABC. My prediction is for this, I think Ohio State walks all over Miami. Ohio State's offense has been explosive all year, and Miami's has a good pass rush, but they have enough weapons. The Oregon-Texas Tech game, I hope Texas Tech wins just because their defense has been lights out. Oregon hasn't really played anybody this year. But I could see Oregon also coming out, Dan Lanning, I enjoy listening to him talk and what he has to say and how he motivates his players. I could see Oregon walking away with it. Indiana and Alabama, I have absolutely no clue. I'm not gonna touch this game betting wise. I have no clue who this is gonna go because Indiana's been hot. They've been the team to beat, but also it's Alabama in the playoffs, and I know it's no longer the Saban era. It's the Caleb DeBoer era, but it's still Alabama football. And I mean, you're playing at the Rose Bowl, which is predominantly Big Ten. You think Big Ten wins it, but I have no clue about this one. And then Ole Miss, Georgia. I think Georgia rolls Ole Miss. Georgia's another team you don't want to see in the playoffs, no matter where you sit at, just because Kirby Smart, after Saban retiring, Kirby Smart's the guy in the SEC right now. And so that's what it looks like right now. I'm excited to watch these games when I can. Necessarily won't be in a place I can watch the New Year's games, but definitely be updating on the scores for sure. But if you like football in general, it'll be fun to watch. So excited for that one. But we're gonna hit our Week 18 picks. Last regular season picks of the year. Kind of crazy going through this so far. Last week I had a terrible week, so hopefully I finished better. I went 7-9. The Twitch himself went 10-6. So Twitch has a chance this week. 10. Twitch would be around the 190 mark. I'll hopefully break 160, maybe. But great, had fun so far. Excited to see what our final records are and where they stack up to the professionals. We'll definitely have that next week to see where we're at. Twitch, last time Twitch checked, he was up right and tied with the top 1 or 2 guys that do it professionally and get paid for it. So it'll be interesting to see. I was in the middle of the pack. I was hanging out with Rob Gronkowski and Tony G. So I'm okay with those guys. Those are on my speed, but
they're a little faster.
I mean, more my kind of people. But we're gonna roll into our picks from Week 18 here. Got some great games.
All right, so rolling into our Week 18 picks, last of the regular season games, obviously. It's always great to have Saturday football back. I mean, I've enjoyed that. Last week, stretches out football all weekend long, and was a little under the weather all weekend, so laying on the couch watching football, had an excuse just to enjoy some NFL games. Saturday, we'll start off with a 3:30 game. We have the Panthers rolling down to Tampa and playing the Bucs. Interesting take here. Let's start with you, Twitch. What are you thinking here for the Panthers-Bucs game?
I know this game's at Tampa. I'm going with Carolina, though. Carolina's been the more consistent team, obviously, throughout the year and especially the last couple of months. And two teams, I mean, it was a good game a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. But I feel like it's the Panthers. I mean, if you're the Bucs, you have a chance to, after all the losses in November and December, you still have it right here in front of you, and you have the first game on Saturday to put pressure on the Falcons and these other teams. So, I think Baker Mayfield comes out after as bad as they played the last couple of months. Like, I feel like they play competitive, try to right the ship. Maybe I don't possibly Mike Evans' last game as a Buck, but that being said, I feel like it's going to be the Panthers. Panthers have been they got kind of blown out the second half against a good Seahawks team last week. But I think the Panthers have been the better team, and I feel like the Panthers get the win here.
Yeah, I have the Panthers as well. I feel bad picking against my boy Baker, but I mean, just down the stretch, he has not looked good at all. It's not been pretty. He's obviously playing hurt for some reason. I mean, I know Teddy Bridgewater's your backup, and you don't necessarily want him out there either, but just hasn't been a good look at all year. I think the Panthers get it done. think the Panthers don't need the Falcons' help. So
I know it's hard for you. You spoke highly of Baker.
Baker will be back
Oh,
next year. Don't worry. The Baker hype train will definitely be in effect this offseason when I forget about how bad they've done.
Yeah, so as interesting as that game might be, we do have a pretty heated game up there Saturday night, 7 o'clock. It's our game of the week. Actually, this week, we have the Seattle Seahawks playing down in San Francisco against the 49ers, who have definitely been red hot. But, I mean, it's the Seahawks. So what's your take here, Box?
Yeah, I have the 49ers winning this one. I mean, the Seahawks have been good, and we've been high on them all year. Or Twitch has been high on them all year, and I was kind of, not really a believer, but I believe this game will come down to Sam Darnold would do what he did against the Rams and overcome the turnovers, and overcome even though he threw 2 picks in that game as well, he also came back and won the game. And I think the 49ers are just they got hot at the perfect time. They've been hot down the stretch as Purdy came back, and I think this game, even though it's not really a playoff game, it's going to feel like a playoff game in the atmosphere. And I think the 49ers and Brock Purdy not necessarily roll them. I think it's going to be a great shootout. I don't know if it'll be as good as the last 49ers game we got to watch, but I still think the 49ers overdo the Seahawks, and I don't.
Any predictions on what that over is? Just off the top of your head? What do you think?
I'm guessing it's at 63, 64. It's usually at 62 with a good division game like this. So
I would say lower.
I'll double check while we're
Yeah.
talking.
So
right.
with the Seahawks defense.
So what about you there, Twitch? Seahawks at
Well, it's
Santa Clara.
It's so funny because out of NFC teams with the Lions being eliminated last week, that's kind of who I've been rooting for in the NFC on top, so biasly. But then it's like, to me on paper, especially with all the injuries San Francisco's had, like I've been so high on the Seahawks because of the balance. They got 2 good running backs. They've got Nelson Smith and Jigba. They've got Cooper Kupp. They've got all these guys, and they have a top 4 defense. And so all year I've been thinking that and they still very well could be that team in the NFC. That being said, I think he's a lot better than what he was in New York, and we've seen that the last 2 years with 2 different teams, with the Vikings and the Seahawks, and Sam Darnold. I do believe he's good enough, but I feel like in a game like this, in a divisional game, he might even play a good game like he did against the Rams the first time, or even the Niners the first time. He might have 250 yards passing. But I feel like it's the Niners. I'm going with the Niners here. They're at home. They have all the momentum. They're under the radar. They're underdogs. They're playing hot. Brock Purdy. And I feel like Sam Darnold has 1 or 2 turnovers, and San Francisco doesn't turn the ball over. And they're like, after all we've been through, after nobody talking about us until literally last week in the Bears, they win this game. They get home field advantage, and 1 seed, get to rest, maybe have Fred Warner back. I mean, I just feel like there's too much. San Francisco, I think in a lot of ways, I don't know what that point line is, but I feel like in a lot of ways, a lot of people think, if it was on a neutral side or Seattle, I'd probably pick Seattle, but because it's in San Fran, and I think that Seattle will still be the slight favorite. I don't know.
Yeah, they are. The 49ers are at plus 1.5. The over-under is at 52.5, so overshot it by 10 points. But
Well, because I think the Seahawks defense, and I think the Niners will keep it close.
fun little fact here, doesn't really matter, but the Chiefs and Raiders is set at 35.5.
Yeah.
Expected to be a shootout, guys.
I'm going with the Niners at home, surprising everybody, including myself. After being all over the Seahawks nuts the last 2.5 months, like, I'm not saying I'm jumping off the bandwagon as far as, like, I feel something they can do some damage in the playoffs, but in San Fran with the home field on the line on Saturday night primetime, with what we just saw, I think that momentum carries from last week into this week, and I feel like Seattle beat them the first time. That's why they have the tiebreaker. So,
All right, well, we got
did
Sunday.
I say Seattle? I meant San Francisco.
Yeah.
We got Phillip Rivers' grandkid's going to be getting out the VCR and recording Grandpa playing his last game probably ever. Colts at
Good
the Texans. I did see a couple clips of him saying no regrets. Even if you showed me where we were at today, I have no regrets about coming out of retirement and playing. You got to see classic Phillip Rivers throwing a couple
God dang.
yeah.
God damn it.
But it's been an unfortunate twist in the season for the Colts. Be interesting to see what happens next year because they went all in this year.
They don't have a first round pick
So
next 2 years.
yeah. Well, start with you there, Box.
Yeah.
Colts at Texans.
Phillip Rivers is not actually starting. They're starting Riley Leonard.
Oh,
So
Oh,
we,
poor
we,
guy.
we probably just saw the last of Phillip. I'm glad I watched that game. I'm gonna remember that. Tell my kids about it.
Yeah.
Probably not, but I have the Texans winning this one. I mean, the Colts kept it competitive with the Jags for a little bit last week. You know, Phillip Rivers did everything he could to, shot put the ball down the field, but it's
it provided us with a month of great memes.
yeah. I mean,
Right.
definitely will be a topic of conversation of when a quarterback gets hurt in the future, and be like, all right, well, who's the Phillip Rivers of this year? Who's the guy that we're like, didn't see him coming back, but here we are.
Bring Big Ben back for this last game against the Ravens.
Just A-Rod gets lost on an ayahuasca trip, and here comes Big Ben rolling out.
Right. I've got the Texans. Winners 11 of the last 13. Still have the division to play for, and they still have seeding to play for with the Chargers and the Bills right behind them as far as win losses. So they will be playing their starters. They'll be playing to win, and playing against a unproven rookie quarterback against that defense. Good luck, because some of the best haven't been able to figure it out. So Texans in a landslide. So I will say the one thing that's been nice about Rivers is the last couple of weeks, like last week, he had his whole high school football team at the game on the field.
Yeah,
so
that
I
was
thought that was
pretty
pretty cool. But yeah, Texans by a million.
And 1,000,001 actually.
So next game we have Cowboys at the Giants.
Yeah, this game is set at 62, or not 62. This game is also set at 52 and a half. I'm at the Cowboys in this one. I mean, the Giants could upset them and take the win here, but I feel like the Cowboys last game, why not go beat your division rival, I guess? It's kind of, Cowboys is kind of a sad story, at least in my opinion. I mean, we had so much hype around. I mean, explosive offense. Dak Prescott was in MVP talks, and then, ever since they got eliminated, it's just been combustion, just nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a couple of weeks where he was my offensive player of the week
Yeah,
at
I mean,
least
just
once.
playing offensively, they were lights out. Defensively, obviously, we know they had a million struggles. It's like they really needed a really good edge rusher or something.
Right,
They're
that's what I
really
was ready to
sealed
say.
up there.
Right.
But I mean, I feel like that's going to be a running joke for the next until
10 years.
they get somebody who is an elite edge rusher again.
Right.
Yeah, give me the Cowboys though. The Giants will be good next year.
Scatterboo.
Yeah, Scatterboo, they're getting neighbors back. Jackson Dart has proved that he's a guy, and they're only going to get better with the top 4 draft picks. So
Yeah. No, I have the Cowboys as well, just because all the injuries with the Giants and the Cowboys being the better team. Like I said, disappointing. I mean, I wasn't that sad to see them be out of the playoffs.
I'm not saying I was either. I was
But-
excited for it's fun offense to watch.
No, they were a super fun offense to watch, and especially on that Thanksgiving Day game when they came back on the Eagles. That was another game we didn't talk about, but that was one of the games of the year was the Eagles-Cowboys in Dallas, and then the 4 days later they had a great win against the Chiefs. So disappointing year for Cowboys if you're a Cowboys fan, but I feel like they get the win. They have a lot more talent. They said they don't make the playoffs, but they have enough pride to be a divisional opponent. And I feel like the Cowboys, they got done last week against the Commanders, and I feel like they get it done this week against the Giants. Really excited and hopeful, as the Giants said. I've said before, Giants always kind of like one of the NFC teams I always liked. A lot of things to be positive about. It'd be interesting to see who they bring in for head coach on top of what pieces, if they had a tight end, if they had some offensive line help, or if they have a defense at all, because their defense for much of the year was bottom 5, at least bottom 10. So they get a defense and a couple other playmakers, and everybody comes back healthy. It's like that's a team to watch out for. I really like the Giants a lot. But for this week, last game of the year, I feel like it's Cowboys.
All right, well, division game, Browns in Cincy versus the Bengals. Here's obviously, the last game for the hype of the Myles Garrett sack record. I think he's getting it here. Bengals defense has proven to be atrocious, and so that doesn't necessarily dictate the win, but
Yeah, I think the Bengals still get it done though. I think Joe Burrow's back. Joe Burrow, he knows the Browns from what little he's played them. I think Garrett. I don't know. There's a chance Garrett doesn't break the record, and I think Twitch would be about the most excited Steelers fan you've ever talked to. But I think the Bengals win, but it's kind of a worry in the back of the mind of, oh, hey, does Garrett not break it after getting off to the hottest start that we've seen in a long time. He was on an Aiden Hutcherson type run, and then Hutch broke his leg last year, so
Yeah.
he got knocked off. But Garrett just kind of his last 3 games have been rough. And I thought last week was the week, but the Steelers came out in game plan and said, "No, not against us. You can beat us. Screw your draft picks. We're
Right.
gonna
Get the moral victory.
yeah, guess."
I'm going with the Bengals as well. The first time these teams played, I think it was 16-14 or something like that. It was an ugly game, but Cincinnati getting the win in Cleveland. But this game's in Cincinnati. Other than, yes, obviously they had a fluke turnover, but Burrow's been pretty clutch with the Bengals defense. That'll be the story for the Bengals this year, was the Bengals defense. Not Burrow missing 8 games or whatever when they lost 8 out of 9 of those games. Like, it's because how many games did they lose by giving up the Chicago? Pittsburgh was one of them. Not Pittsburgh, but there was a couple games where they lost the final seconds of the game. But it's give me the defensive side of the ball. But anyway, take away that disastrous performance by Burrow and the Bengals offense against the Ravens a couple weeks ago. He's played lights out, put up 40 points again this last week. I know it's the Dolphins mailed it in for the year, but what do you think the Browns are going to be doing? That Browns Super Bowl was last week against the Steelers, so in the Battle of Ohio, I don't feel like. But for the Battle of Ohio, I've got the Bengals beating the Browns this week. I don't feel like they've got a lot more offense, and Shadir Sanders is not going to be able to keep pace with them.
Rolling over to Finn here, local Bengals expert. Finn, what's your take on this week's game? Last game of the year for the Bengals.
I'd say the Bengals, just because they can end it out on a win, and the Browns, Shador Sanders, he really has no receivers, and I think they're gonna focus a lot on the Myles Garrett sack record, and I think they'll get it, but Bengals offense has been really good. It's just their defense that's selling out games, because there's been a lot of games where it came down to the last seconds of the game, and then their defense just sold. And
what do you think the Bengals need to do this offseason to help Joe Burrow get back to a Super Bowl?
better offensive line, and trade for an offensive line and draft defense.
There we go. What do you think? You think Zach Taylor keeps his job? You think the head coach stays the head coach, or do you think they fire him?
I mean,
I think they keep him another year.
yeah.
I'm not making an excuse from that defense. That's part of. There was some frustration a couple of weeks ago with the coaching staff, I think, in that Baltimore game. But I'm not making excuses because he's part of that. But for the defense, but to miss Joe Burrow for 8 or 9 games, or whatever it was, I think he'll get the. He's taken him to a couple AFC Championship games. It's not like Cincinnati. He's been to a lot of them. No offense, but so I feel like he'll get another shot. He might start the year on the hot seat, but I feel like he'll get another chance with Cincinnati, unless they for some reason lose this game. Then it might heat up.
Yep. Well, that was Finn, our local Bengals expert. Appreciate Finn's takes there on the Bengals.
Absolutely. Another noon game. We have the New Orleans Saints going down and playing the Atlanta Falcons. That's our upset alert game this week. So I see a split here on the scorecards. Yeah, that's tough after watching.
I mean, the Saints have been hot. Tyler Schlaw's been slow. I need to hear an announcer say his name before I say it, before I know how to say it. But yeah, I mean, a guy who wasn't supposed to start, and look at him now, got him on a win streak, and then we saw what the Falcons did. So excited about this one for sure. I have the Saints winning this one though. I think the Saints have been hot. The Saints have been on a hot streak, and in very Falcons fashion, they're going to go out and they're going to beat an 11-win team on Monday Night Football in prime time, like the last time they did on prime time, and they beat the Buffalo Bills, who are another playoff team. And then they're going to roll into they're playing in Atlanta again, but the Saints are going to come marching in, and they're going to beat them 16-12 or some stupid score.
I see what you did there.
Nice.
Saints come marching in.
What's your take, Twitch?
I'm going with the Falcons. Him and I both were just like, yeah, nobody cares about this game. But with the Falcons ending the year with momentum and having, kind of a sneaky win streak going on, and Kirk Cousins, like veteran quarterback, and Bijan Robinson showing out last week, I feel like they have a little more offense, and it's at Atlanta, a divisional opponent. Well, it'll be a close game. It was close the first time. But I feel like Atlanta pulls it out and ends the season on a high note at 8-9.
All right. Another division game. Packers going up to Minnesota playing the Dome with the Vikings. Should be an interesting game, I think.
I feel like this was also on the conversation board for upset alert. I mean, the Vikings have been a little bit of a hot streak. J.J. McCarthy remembered how to play football again. So the Vikings have been kind of putting it together. Last week, obviously, you have a team that puts up 6 turnovers, you're going to win. They didn't have over 100 yards of total offense, and they still won. So this shows you how much the defense played a role in that. I think the Packers pull it out, though. Even with Malik Willis, the quarterback, Malik Willis, even though they got kind of blown out by the Ravens last week, Malik Willis still played great NFL football. I think Malik Willis just earned himself a contract to go play for the New York Jets next year. I mean,
Or the Steelers.
or a team that always signs quarterbacks and never seems to work out. I think Malik Willis does deserve another genuine chance, another place, to start another place instead of, Tennessee with that dumpster fire. And I don't know about the same about Will Levis, but I'll say it. I think Will Levis deserves at least another chance somewhere else other than Tennessee, just because of all the turmoil and all the crap that happened there. But I think Malik Willis gets it done if Jordan Love doesn't play. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan Love doesn't sit another week because they're locked in at the 7th seed. They're gonna have to go play in LA, or they're gonna have to go play in either Philly or Chicago. So it'll be interesting to see where.
Is Malik playing this week, though?
It's Love's cleared from concussion protocol, but it'll be interesting to see what they do because they can't.
Because Malik got hurt last week, too.
Yeah, I didn't see anything about him not playing, though.
Gotcha.
But I'm interested to see just because.
It is interesting to see where a backup quarterback can go out there and actually get some playing time because, you didn't see Will Levis play. You brought up those are Malik and Will Levis both were playing in Nashville a couple of years ago. Obviously, Will Levis struggles. The Titans get the number 1 draft pick. They go with Cam Ward. Cam Ward wins that position. Will sits on the sidelines. Malik is sitting in an opportunity to come back behind Love and gets a chance to go out there and showcase some skills. And that's how important that is. A lot of times your backup quarterbacks go sit someplace on the sideline. You don't hear about anything. But like you said, if you get to come out there and play a handful of games and show that you have what it takes to start in the NFL, it's a matter of opportunity.
Yeah.
And Box, you said that I think that Will Levis deserves a chance to start somewhere. I don't know. I don't know if anybody's gambling on that to come in there. I don't know who's going to be hurting for a QB1 where they're thinking he's the guy that's shown me something that's going to be the guy I signed for something major. But I'm sure he'll be looking. And I don't know what the hell's going to happen in Nashville. Yeah.
You got to feel for Cam Ward. Guy set the Tennessee Titans rookie passing yards. So, he's a decent quarterback. His number
That's
one
what
weapon's
Titans.
Tony Pollard.
Yeah.
This weapon he fired Mike Vrabel.
Exactly.
So I got to pick this game.
Yeah.
So I have the Packers, but we like he already talked about. We kind of had the Packers losing 3 straight, and it depends on who plays, who doesn't play. The Vikings kind of coming up hot at the end of the year, so I'm not going to be shocked. The game's in Minnesota, but I have the Packers as well, just because they have lost 3 straight. They've been one of the better teams throughout the rest of the year. I think they figured it out against a division opponent, and they go in with a win. Now, that first round, depending on who they play, they might not make it very long in the playoffs, but given how they played the last month. But up until that Chicago game, up until that Ravens game, and that Denver game, they've lost to quality opponents, and Green Bay's been right there. So I feel like Green Bay rights the ship this week.
Go Pack, go. Last noon game, Speaking of the Titans and all the craptastic things that are happening there in Tennessee, the Titans do have to go on the road and play in Jacksonville against a Jaguars team that's looking to just
Upset alert.
just looking to just
Yeah,
get
just
gritty.
I think the Titans. I mean, the Jags still have to play for the 1 seed, or they're still in play for the 1 seed
You think
and the
Titans-
2 seed. So I think the Jags get it. Nah, it's just I think
It's like, wow.
I think the Titans run the ball every play and just try to mail it in. Let's go to Cabo as fast as we can. But yeah.
Yep, Jaguars. Is that where your head's at,
I'm
Twitch?
not going to spend a lot of time talking about Jaguars, red hot, one of the hottest teams in the NFL. Fighting for that 1 seed. Still have to win that game to win the division. Titans, dumpster fire. Who's going to play a quarterback this week? It's Jags by a mile.
A mile. I don't know what that turns out into points. 5,280. So, all right. So finally, we roll up into some really awesome 325 games. I know which ones I want to watch. First one up there for grabs is the Chargers rolling out to Denver and playing the Broncos. Broncos get this one. They lock up the number 1 seed in the AFC. We have no Justin Herbert. It doesn't really make any difference whether the Chargers win on this one. So
Yeah, I'm guessing the Chargers will rest quite a few of their players, and that gives the Broncos an opportunity to lock up the 1 seed. I just got to win, and it's ours. So I think the Broncos. I mean, I'm picking my team. I'm picking the Broncos. I think resting Justin Herbert will be good for them for the playoffs, just because of how much wear and tear. I mean, the guy had surgery on a Tuesday and played Monday, and then just really he's been running for his life ever since. And he got smoked last week by the Texans. So
and then he came up holding that arm a couple times. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously
he's not
only-
100%.
He's not 100%, and that's painful. So yeah, Broncos.
But yeah, taking the Broncos.
Yeah, it's not even close. Fighting for the 1 seed. And without having, if it was Justin Herbert, I said this, I think is a toss-up game. But without having Justin Herbert and that Broncos defense, I feel like, and I'm trying to think, are both of those games at 3? So the Patriots and the Broncos both play at 3. So like probably a little bit of scoreboard watching for that 1 seed. I said so. But I feel like the Broncos, especially at home this year, have been pretty automatic other than that Jags game. So give me the Broncos. They split with the Chargers, win the division. Already won the division, but lock up the 1 seed.
Yeah, an interesting point too. I mean, and some of that you get to see how other teams fare out in those games where there's a difference. It's made. I know in the past, sometimes they don't even show some of those scores that actually make a difference because they want to keep everybody focused on what's in front of them. But yeah, that is one that makes a difference because then we go into the next game. It's the Arizona Cardinals playing at the Rams.
You have the Rams in this one.
Yeah.
I don't spend a lot of time on that one either.
Yeah.
Rams bounce back. Matthew Stafford. Cardinals suck.
For sure. I don't even know if I'm assuming that we'll get the Chiefs at Raiders because that's the next one. I mean, I would much rather watch some of the other games that are out there, so I don't know what's going to be broadcast locally. But
KC was still will be.
Yeah, we'll watch the Raiders and the Chiefs.
so, well, if you come out here, we'll maybe have to find a way to get
I'll be out in Western Kansas, so I'll be closer to Denver, so maybe I'll be able to get the Denver game to kick in on my phone.
So, third string QB for KC, he's still getting it done.
Chris.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris. I think KC gets it done. The Raiders suck. Geno Smith is in a really bad place. I mean, he had an interview and he said, "No, you're late to work. Blame it on me. Your kids fail a class. Blame it on me." Shout out him for coming out and taking the blame for help. Like, it's not all 100% him, obviously, but taking blame. But also, I mean, just having to stand there at a press conference and just eat it like that.
Who's just one wide receiver? They got rid of Meyer.
Yeah, I mean,
They got Jinty, but where's the offensive line?
Tyler Lockett is literally their number 1 receiver.
He got banged up, had to get help off the field this last week.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just a complete dumpster
It's not all
fire.
on him, but he's definitely had his hand in it.
Yeah, and I mean, Max Crosby is on. They shut him down. Then Max Crosby went out and posted a video of him dunking a basketball. Literally, like 10 minutes after they said that they're shutting him down. He's been playing with a knee thing all year, so he's just pissed that he doesn't get to play the last week of the year against a division rival.
I'd be
but-
curious to see if it's his last game as a Raider.
Yeah, I am too, because he's been a big Raiders guy, but if that's how they're treating him, I wouldn't be surprised if old Max Crosby's on the move.
Well, just the fact of worse than the Bengals, it has to suck being on the Raiders every year.
Feel bad for Genty. He's going to waste 4 years. He's going to be the Josh Jacobs story. Genty's going to go waste 5 years of his life in Las Vegas and then go somewhere else and be a stud.
Yeah.
So,
I still have the Chiefs winning this game because of the Chiefs' defense. I mean, third string or not, I feel like they send Travis Kelce. I think this is Kelce's last game. I think no one's come out and said this, so I could be completely wrong. And maybe even if it is the last game for Kelce, that he wouldn't say anything because he doesn't want to. It's Kelce, for people that talk shit on him. So I love Kelce. I don't think he's a selfish guy, so I wouldn't be surprised if even if it is the last game, he doesn't say anything. But if he decides to tell Kansas City, thanks for this is my last game, then for sure, like Kansas City, I think will win. I think their defense is good enough, even with having a third string quarterback against a bad team like the Raiders, and what's been a disappointing year for the Chiefs. Losing four straight, 5 straight. I feel like the Chiefs get off the schneid. So.
Yeah, I mean, part of me sits there and looks at the brothership, if you will, between Mahomes and Kelce. That this is now either of them wanted the season to end. I think that he's got football left in him if he wants to play. He doesn't have anything else necessary to play for. He's broke a lot of records. It would be coming back to play for the love of the game. Sign me a 1-year contract. I'm not going to do anything to, I'm not going to ask for crazy money, but that would be the only way he would come back in my mind. But I can see that being the mentality of the Chiefs. That, man, I think they got a few things that, not that they got lucky, but they came back and won a Super Bowl with 7 rookies on the field in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And so they can do it with people that haven't proven that level of talent. But some of that is luck, and some of that is just things got to fall your way. And so many times, a few key plays in every game, when they don't go your way, you end up on the wrong side of that win-loss column. So I don't know what'll happen, but I think he's the kind of guy. He's not even going to entertain that conversation until after the season's over. Then kind of regroup and get with his boys and sit down and have a conversation. But yeah,
Do you think it's his last game though?
I truly think he comes back and plays one more, because I think that this was a painful season for all of those guys. And you have Jones still with a year on his contract. You have a couple people out there that are contributors. We missed out on multiple games with Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, some injuries that are out there. We just, not to make excuses, but you didn't have everything in place like you hoped it would have been throughout the year. And so I think when you sit back and you look at how close we were to putting together that full package, I think Kelce's got a strong component to offer that team as far as leadership, short down situations. Again, now he missed some catches here in critical moments. But I feel like those are – I think that those are flukes. I don't think that that's age. I don't think that that's inability. I don't think that's lack of focus. Yeah. So, I think all of that stuff is still there. If you think about it, Kelce came back into this season and he'd lost like 20 pounds. He got in phenomenal shape. And it's as I get older, I still want to be aggressive and be that guy. So that wouldn't surprise me at all. And so – I look for one more year with him, but that's just me optimistic and thinking of, I guess, sentimentally, all of the videos I've seen about the friendship that's brewed there between those guys. And that, man, I know that I wouldn't want to leave my brother and my team with that season as how I'm remembered. So I think that's what you're playing for. Yeah. And if they'd won, if they'd have made it into the playoffs this year and then got bumped out, I think you go, well, we had a good run, but this was a shit show of what Kansas City had for a season, and we haven't seen it for a decade. And I think they bounce back. I think they figure some of that out, and I think they don't want to come back and be a part of that. All right, so next 3:25 game, we do have the Dolphins rolling out there and playing New England Patriots. And the Patriots got a lot to play for here. And I don't know, the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, Quinn Ewers kind of slung it around last week. I mean, good for him. I think the Patriots get it done, though. This would be the upset alert of the week if this was in Miami, because, late season Patriots in Miami's always been not good at all.
The Fins have had their number.
Yeah, but it is in New England, so I think New England gets it done. Tua's not even playing, but the Dolphins have proved that they're not a cold weather team every time they go play in the cold weather. And it's kind of stereotypical, and everybody's like, oh, it doesn't really matter, but we saw it when they went and played. Did they play a couple weeks ago? Buffalo? They played Buffalo, and then I think they played
Buffalo earlier in the year on a Thursday night game.
Yeah.
They
And
actually
then,
played pretty well. But, yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's just, and then,
their record in like 35 or below is
yeah, it's not,
atrocious.
it's really bad, so, and I don't know if it's going to be
in a
third.
lost season. And
Yeah. I don't know.
last week, yeah, Burrow was, playing lights out, even though their season's done too. But it's like, you still had the Bengals with 6 wins or whatever, and it looked like Miami was already started vacation. So
Yeah, they're going down to the Keys for
Right.
training, I guess. I don't know.
they're thinking about their Monday plans, not their Sunday afternoon plans.
Yeah.
So you get the Pats. So,
They got the Pats too.
all right. So, Washington playing in Philly against the Eagles. Yeah.
I think this could be a trap game for the Eagles. I mean, obviously they still need to play this week because it's a difference between playing a L.A. Rams or a Seattle team compared to playing a Green Bay Packers team, which looks a lot more beatable on the schedule. So I think they win this game. It could be a trap game though. They could be kind of looking over them and kind of looking forward to that playoff game. And the Commanders, I mean, they're the Commanders. It's a division game, so who knows how that's going to shake out. But I like the Eagles in this one just because they looked good last week. And even though it was a perfect Eagles game of just absolute shitty football, or their brand of football, I guess, good defense, offense doesn't really need to do much to keep them in it.
Yeah, Eagles, I won't spend much time on it. It could be a trap game, but the Commanders not very good this year. A lot of injuries. Philadelphia's been inconsistent. Philadelphia really can't. They still have a chance to improve their seeding, but not much. But I feel like they'll use this as a tune-up game, knowing that they'll be playing the next week after that. They don't have a chance at the 1 seed. And I feel like Philadelphia gets it done in Philly. And I feel like they've started working on some things offensively. They have too much offensive talent. Whether you believe Hurts is the guy or not. I mean, obviously, sure, he's a franchise quarterback. He's won a Super Bowl. But, I mean, like, as inconsistent as he's been, and when you have guys like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley, and you only get 18 yards, and they've laid us some offensive stinkers. Dallas was one of them. What was the other game that Philly played absolutely awful?
The Chiefs.
Green Bay. Yeah,
the
Green Bay.
Chiefs.
They won against Green Bay.
Yeah. Beat the Chiefs with like 116 total yards.
Yeah. So I feel like the Eagles figure some things out, and their defense just shuts down the Commanders, and yeah, they just beat them 2 weeks ago. It was another one of those play games in 3 or 4.
Ooh, sorry.
Yeah.
Woo,
Bless you.
That's how we'll end up with that one. Detroit going to Chicago, playing a hot Bears coming off of a sad loss, but showing a lot of high-powered offense.
Yeah, I think this is like
Revenge game.
a storybook game. Like you put this in a movie, you lose to Big Brother earlier in the season, and you go through the season. You have some adversity, you win some games, you lose some game. Then your last game of the year, you got it circled. You get to go back and play the team that 52-10'd you earlier in the year. And I think the Bears. I'm not going to say they're going to 52-10 the Lions, but I think the Bears are going to run the score up as much as they can. Because I don't think there's any animosity between Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell.
No.
I think they both know what brand football they both play.
Well, they both are super competitive.
Yeah,
against
they're both
each other.
competitive guys, and like Ben Johnson said after the last game, he's like, "Are you mad at Campbell for running up?" He's like, "No, because I do the same thing."
Yeah.
So I mean, I could see this getting out of hand
Let's
for the
go.
Lions if they don't come out and play. And obviously, that Bears defense is good at getting pressure. We saw Brock Purdy run around. He didn't get sacked one time, but Brock, that's the benefits of the West Coast offense. But I'm interested to see how this game shakes out. I still have the Bears getting it done, though. I think the Bears walk away with it, and the Lions, have some more question marks than we think. Because I
Yeah.
mean, Ben Johnson, I think, will empty the magazine to kind of get back and give some momentum rolling into whoever their first round playoff game is going to be against.
Yeah, I have Chicago as well in that whatever it was 52-21 game where like Detroit was just on fire early in the year. I feel like they said, I think that they get along really good. I think they're still good friends, but like I said, from the first one, like I said, there was some playful ribbing on little brother, and I feel like Johnson and the Bears and where they're at and where the Lions played last week against the Vikings. I think there's two different teams going in different directions. Hopefully, the Lions figure out next year. But yeah, I feel like Chicago is the better team. They have all the momentum going into the playoffs, and yeah, I feel like Chicago gets it done, gets revenge on the Lions at home.
Yeah. Crazy. That's not what my take would have been at the beginning of the year for Week 18, looking at that schedule down the stretch. But I agree with both of you guys. So our last 3:25 game is we do have the New York Jets going up to Buffalo across the street,
Across the street.
playing the Bills. And the Bills obviously came off with a heartbreaking loss against the Eagles. So
On a map, I think it's up because New York.
yeah,
But it's like at an angle.
geography.
45-degree angle. I got the Bills. Jets suck. The Jets are playing for the number 1 seed.
It's Buffalo.
Yes.
Like Jets aren't a very good team. They don't have the offensive weapons. Buffalo losing the way they did and getting ready for the playoffs. They're still a favorite in my mind. It'll be Buffalo.
And we're getting ready to roll into Sunday Night Football. Here we go. We got the Baltimore Ravens rolling out to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. Who do you got there, Box?
In this game, I feel like Derrick Henry obviously last week came out and played great, and the Steelers lost in a very Steelers way to lose to the Browns. But I think, this game, obviously, you look at the Ravens and, they got hot at the right time, but I'm going to pick the Steelers. I think, I think the 10-win
You're
season.
just doing that so if they win, you can throw it in my face.
Partially, yes.
Yeah.
But also, I think, I'm an A-Rod believer, and I think A-Rod has enough to get it done against the Ravens. Obviously, it's a division game, so I think both defenses will be flying high. T.J. Watt, still questionable to come back from that lung puncture thing, but I think if there's any chance he can play, even if it's at half capacity, TJ will come back and play just because this game means a little bit more. And I think A-Rod gets him over the hump with Adam Thielen and Pat Freiermuth and whoever else they have.
And man, if there's not a better way to roll into the state of the Steelers and the Broncos, let me ask you this, Twitch. What's your take on this Ravens-Steelers game? Just who you think's going to win, and then we'll get into the state of the Steelers.
Ravens. 100% the Ravens. I'm a diehard survivor. I'm just going to put it out there, not to toot my own horn from the beginning of the year. What did I say in August? The first show for anybody that's listened all the way through this year. 9-8, 10-7. Either the last team in the playoffs, which they play the Sunday night game, so if they win, they're the last team in, or they'll be the first team on the outside.
The very last team in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, couldn't have called that one any better, and we'll get into the state of the Steelers. I said, but exactly what I was worried about. No number 2 receiver. That offense, I said, and Baltimore figured some things out. The first time they played each other was 26-22, but I'll say this. I hate to say it as a Steelers fan, I'm glad it happened. But Pittsburgh kind of got 3 kind of controversial calls, the three feet down in the end zone, then punching the ball out for a touchdown. And then Baltimore choked at the end.
Yeah.
That being said, who's the better team on paper, on top of who's Aaron going to throw to, on top of go back and look at Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs or a meaningful game. Yeah, most of the time those Packers games, they're already 12-4 or whatever and getting a first-round bye when there's still 2 byes. But go look at Aaron Rodgers' first round of the playoffs game or, meaningful games. When's the last time Aaron Rodgers won a playoff game? 100%. This is pretty much a playoff game. And to make matters worse, I'll tell you how, it doesn't even matter if it's Jackson or Hundley. It does not even matter. Because, first of all, you know who the last quarterback for Baltimore to win in Pittsburgh was? Hundley, 3 years ago. So, but over the last 2 games, if you go back to Pittsburgh's blowout loss to the Ravens last year in the playoffs, and then the week 13, week 14 Steelers win, between those 2 games, the Ravens have rushed for over almost 550 rushing yards the last 2 times they played the Steelers, and no T.J. Watt. So it's that simple, and you saw what the formula was last week. How'd that look against the Packers? Packers have a better defense than us. I'm not afraid to say that. So even if it's not 216 to 4 TDs, I think there's a pretty good chance that the Ravens score at least. I'm going to cuss on this show. they're going to score at least fucking 23 points. You think the Steelers find 20-some points out of that offense? Absolutely not. I haven't been so sure, and I'm thank you for the good memories. Thank you for the good times. I think you're a decent human. Thank you for your service, Mike Tomlin. Should be gone. But, I mean, yeah.
That feels like that's more of a state of the Steelers moment.
Oh,
there.
I stopped right there
But-
because I'm
yeah.
stopped right there.
I feel like
But
there's-
that's a fair point though. Is that if the blueprint for the game is in front of you, it's you have to do everything you can to stop Derrick Henry in this game. And you're absolutely right. That's why I said I look at some of Rodgers' stats here over the last few weeks, and he's not putting up 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I mean, there's not those stats there to win that game offensively.
Right.
So
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Along that point with the run game, again, Pittsburgh's offense. I want to say 2 things about the Pittsburgh offense. I'm not trying to get into the state of the Steelers, but the first thing is, what was I going to say? Sorry. The first thing is it's Baltimore's kind of got like, and as much as I like Harbaugh, can outsmart themselves sometimes, but again, Pittsburgh's offense isn't like so. They're not gonna put up 20-some points on them. So even if they Steelers stop the run, they're not gonna be. I don't feel like Baltimore's gonna shy away from their game plan because Pittsburgh's offense isn't gonna pull away from the game. So even if Baltimore gets shut down early, I think they'll wear down Pittsburgh. And to go along with that, before I forget, and again, I'm not trying to get too much in the state of the Steelers, but a huge reason why Pittsburgh was able to beat Baltimore the first time was because that was the game where first play on from scrimmage, he throws about a 57-yard bomb down to DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf has 120 yards in the first half. And that was the week before. Fired Tomlin. Steelers offense isn't very good. Steelers played a pretty good offensive game overall in that Ravens game the first time. That being said, what opened up that whole entire offense the whole time against Baltimore was DK Metcalf, who, last time I checked, will be one of the fans they decided to punch and fuck over our year. So enjoy the offseason. Go Broncos, go Texans, go Seahawks, go everybody else, because it ain't going to be us.
all right. So Twitch takes the Ravens, Box takes the Steelers.
I've never felt more comfortable about a pick this year.
That's crazy.
All right. Well, be right back. We'll do, I guess, the state of the Broncos, state of the Steelers. I don't know if we have the state of anything else.
Yeah. Have the state of the Bengals as well. But appreciate everybody listening. Hope everybody has a great week. Hope you all had a great Christmas. Hope you have a great New Year's. Hope everybody stays safe out there. Besides that, hope all your bets hit. Hope your fantasy league went better than how I did. And I'll catch you guys. We'll catch you guys next week. Appreciate you.